Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Joel.
And I'm Lior.
Western Culture Through God's Eyes. We're going to hit the ground running right here because we're on a time crunch and we're going to do a first ever reaction video. A lot of you guys have been requesting this for a long time, but we had some other seminars we had to crank out beforehand. So this video is called Torah Feminists Exposed. And this is the biggest reason why I wanted to start this channel, because I noticed this way back as I was a kid in Christian churches. And whether it's a Christian church or whether they're Torah folks, feminism is ubiquitous and permeating every aspect of our community. And so people don't understand that it's wrong unless you specifically call it out. So for this one, it is an interview with Matthew Jansen and his daughter. So just to let you know the good things he's doing right. We're not biased. If you're doing something right, we're going to give you a compliment for that. If you're doing something wrong, we'll criticize you on that, right? Just as everyone does for us too. So we like Matthew Jansen a lot on most of his stuff. He's great on Torah. He's great on the earth. He's great on the lunar Sabbath. But on patriarchy, he is severely lacking. He's on the complete wrong side of it. He has the same message that all the feminists do, that the left has. He's a total feminist, and he raised his eldest daughter to be a feminist. And we're going to walk through the whole 30-minute video. Every few seconds, there's feminist propaganda and lingo. So we're going to get right to it.
Yeah, when we were going on his channel, and you can see this himself, he has an entire playlist called Strong Women in the Bible. And it's just like, there are so many words you can choose for women that are virtuous, reverent, wise. You know, I don't understand what it is with women's obsession of calling them strong and men's like just bowing down to this. You know, women aren't strong. You know, even if a woman were a bodybuilder of some kind, you take a man and put him in the exact same rigorous workout and he will dominate her. So women just, it's not a quality that women should have. And it's just overcompensating and overcompensating. And you'll see that language throughout the interview. And it was just, it was a shock to see this coming out from somebody in our own community. So if we can't get things straight in our own community, we have really no.
Also too,
yeah.
we did things the right way too. We privately messaged him in private, total privacy, right? We didn't roast him on his comment section on his wall, or his YouTube channel or his TikTok. We messaged him privately on Facebook and we said, hey, you know, we'd like to address this one little issue. We love you on all these other issues. There's just one issue that we think you're on the wrong side of. We'd like you to tweak to be more pleasing and aligned with God's word and all of history and conservatism, you know, and he wasn't having any of it. So that's the thing. A lot of humble people, it's faux humble. They're not really humble, right? It's virtue signaling. And he wasn't humble at all. And he's like, and he was just like, hey, if you don't submit to me, screw you, and blocked us immediately. He wasn't having none of it. He wasn't open to any correction whatsoever from another believer. That's not humble. So he's virtue.
It was just
deflecting,
signaling. Like, you know, I was in the chat too, I was reading it, and it basically was like, who hurt you? When we said, hey, you know, this is a false teaching that is affecting a lot of people's lives. And, you know, he might have had an ideal marriage or whatever. This is the thing. If you're not talking about this, it's because you're either ignorant or you're playing along with it.
This is the elephant in the room. Yeah. This is the topic of our day, literally for generations, you know, since 1960, 64 years. This is the topic. You know, if you're not addressing it, you're on the wrong side. You know, so of the most important issue of today.
You're not addressing it either.
It's so basic and obvious.
Or you're going along with it. And he's not ignorant. Matthew Jansen's all over the internet.
You're either completely ignorant or you're corrupt. Right? of going on. Either way, you shouldn't be in a position of leadership, right? And as Leora mentioned earlier, like men should be strong and lead. Those are qualities that God says a man should have. A woman should be soft and she should follow, right? Anything else, if you tell women that they're strong and they should lead, you are a leftist, you are a Satanist, you're promoting matriarchy and transgenderism. It's evil. So it's not just, oh, slightly misguided. Oh, no, it's evil. And we're calling it out. So
basically his reaction was like, who hurt you? Like, whatever you say is invalid because somebody hurt you. Well, obviously somebody hurt us. Sin hurts people. And it's not only hurting us, it's hurting all men in our country and throughout the world. It's hurting men in Afghanistan, for Pete's sake. You know, it's hurting people. So just saying like, oh, who hurt you? It's like very deflective and patronizing, and it just doesn't, it's not illicit.
Where's the love? There's absolutely no love in that whatsoever. Exactly.
You know, it wouldn't be such an issue that
for women, yeah, exactly. For women,
wasn't hurting people.
Yeah, for women, if they have one bad boyfriend in middle school doesn't marry him, oh my gosh, she's hurt for life, and the whole world bows down to cater to her feelings. If a man is hurt by every woman in his life, from his mom to his sister to every girlfriend he's ever had, his wife betrays him, etc., and then he commits suicide, he's still not the victim. You know what they say? Oh my gosh, oh, he was derelict in his duty as a man because he should have stayed alive and protected and provided for, enslaved to make the woman's life better. So no matter how much the man is the victim, he's never the victim in our society, right? And it's so great. So in our society, we have all these obligations that men should do for women, right? And everyone agrees to it, blah, blah, blah. But in our society, we don't think that women should do anything for men. And this is evil, right? And this is what this video is about.
Right,
Let's
we're gonna get
right into it.
But
So.
basically, Matthew Jansen describes himself as a complementarian. And this is pseudo-egalitarianism, because when you're a complementarian, you're basically saying, oh, this gives women a leverage to say, you're not complimenting me right now. I don't feel complimented. You're not bringing out the vibes in me. So it's like complementarianism, excuse me, is not patriarchy. And patriarchy protects everybody, including women. So it's pseudo-egalitarianism, it's disguise, it's a chameleon aspect, and be privy to this when you hear it.
Exactly.
So
we got a whole playlist, patriarchy, right? Go to Western Men Are Too Weak for more information on that, whole hour and a half. But basically, God and all of history, even if they weren't even biblical, they applied patriarchy because it's just natural to nature, right? There's all these other terms, but they're all the same thing. Feminism, egalitarianism, equality, transgenderism, matriarchy, and Satanism. Those are all terms for and complementarianism. Those are all different terms for this. Anything other than patriarchy is godly. Any of these terms right here are code names, are disingenuous, secretive, manipulative, shrewd code names for the same thing over here.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
painting it in a virtuous sounding word.
We're gonna
yeah, it's very cringe. Brace yourself. Here we go.
Get right into it.
Morgan. So this is my favorite interview that I've ever done. You want to just share a little?
Okay, right off the bat, there's no bias at all. The interview hasn't even started. Oh, it's the favorite interview you ever did. So Matthew Jansen is beta simming to his daughter right off the bat. So not only is he submitting to his wife, now he's submitting to his youngest daughter. Even worse if it could possibly be.
The interview hasn't even started.
A little bit maybe about yourself, or would you rather not, or?
Well, you.
Notice how there's manipulative music in the background. They don't do this when they're interviewing men, right? The music is manipulation, right? Especially in a teaching in a seminar. It shouldn't be that way.
You know me.
Yeah, I know you, yeah.
My name is Morgan.
Yeah.
I'm 23 years old. I am married and I have 2 beautiful children, Bowen, who is 3, and Willow, who is 1.
Yeah.
My husband, Josiah. I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Okay, notice that she says she's a mother first, not a wife, right? This is a problem. This is ubiquitous in the West. You can see it on Facebook. They're like, I'm a mom. These are my kids. No, your role as a woman, as a wife is the #1 purpose why God created you. He didn't create babies first. He created Adam first, the husband. He created Eve for Adam. Her purpose is the husband. You as a woman, your purpose is the man. Anything else is evil, right? Imagine even if the husband said that his purpose was the kids and not the wife, right? A man's purpose is God, right? A man's purpose is Yahuwah. The wife's purpose is the husband. The kid's purpose, they have to obey the mom. Imagine if kids would say, oh, nope, I can skirt around my mom and my purpose is God and I can disobey my mom as much as I want. They'd be bad kids, right? And so it's the same thing it is with women. So you are a wife first, not a mother. Mother second.
I like to do art and design and photography and anything like that.
Yeah.
I love my children and keeping my home.
You're good at it. You're good at it. So thank you for taking the time away from your family. I know it's a huge responsibility that you have and your husband has to take care of your home. So we're talking today about a video that...
Nope, it's the wife's purpose to take care of the home. Like the husband protects and provides, the woman takes care of the man in the home, right? So, takes care of the husband and the kids in the home. So again, that's transgenderism. That is not biblical. Patriarchy is biblical. And by the way, in patriarchy, women have the most amount of privilege. So ironically, feminism actually it hurts women long term. It gives them power immediately, but in the long term, it even ruins their life as well. The irony.
I texted you about that has now been taken down. And it was on a subject that is actually near and dear to my heart because I came into studying this topic before I even got married. And your mom and I have raised you a certain way. So, and this is about modesty. So it was this Modest is Hottest video that a well-known singer, Matthew West, came out with, I don't know, maybe a week or two ago. It's been taken down now. The first thing I want to ask you, before we talk specifically about the video, I want to ask you, as a young woman, 23 years old, who believes in the Holy Scriptures, serves Yahweh, what is modesty to you?
Modesty to me is not just one thing. It's a lot of things. I think it's first and foremost a spirit, a modest spirit, a humble spirit.
There you go. It's not, asking the woman what it is, right? Oh, it has nothing to do with dressing modestly. It's just how you feel. Everything's spiritual, right? Nothing's tangible. It's just how you feel.
I want to say something
Yeah,
too,
go
like,
ahead.
where's the husband?
Ex-
Where's the husband?
Yeah.
Like, I understand, when you're married, you
It's
leave to
inappropriate,
your
yeah.
husband, and he should be here for this conversation. A lot of fathers, like, fail to remind their daughters that their husband is now their authority, and so they still see their own father as like the head figure of their life. And when the husband and their own father come into some like disagreement, the wife submits to her own father rather to her own husband. Like, her husband should absolutely be part of this conversation. Now, maybe he allowed her, this is all with his permission, whatever, but he should be here.
Because he was
it's
raised as a
kinda
feminist
weird.
too.
You'll see further in
when
the
you get
conversation, it
married,
gets a little weird having these conversation between
Yeah.
father and daughter.
When-
Maybe between husband and wife in reality.
when you get married, your husband is your new father, and then your actual biological father is now the grandpa, right? So, because when a girl's married, like her dad is like her husband, right? So when you have an actual husband, he is now husband number one. He's the dad all in one for women. They combine those roles, and now your dad is the grandpa, right? Husband's nowhere to be seen. He's looked at as an unnecessary thing. You can just go around him. You don't have to consult his authority whatsoever. She's a totally free agent. She's not becoming one with the man. She's not submissive to her husband. She's a totally free agent. In fact, she has authority in the home. She can do whatever she wants to do.
A lot of places in the Bible when it talks about modesty, it's talking about showing off your wealth and not being showy towards others. So I believe that modesty is a lack of a haughty spirit and a showing off of yourself. I think that it is also about the way that you dress, a respect, not that you can't respect yourself any way, but it is a respect for Yahweh, a respect for your spouse, a respect for yourself. And also so many laws that Yahweh gives us are sometimes you're not sure the reason, but they're to set yourself apart. And I think it's also a way that he gives to set us.
Okay, the reason for modesty is to prevent people from engaging in sexual sin, right? God's design. God designed people, when you see someone naked, you're sexually attracted to them, and then sex follows. It's to prevent against sexual immorality. That's the whole purpose for modesty, right? You never, no one's attracted to someone in a burqa. No one's attracted to someone in long draping, covering clothes with the head cover and long baggy clothes. You are attracted to someone with skin-tight clothing with all your goodies popping out. It's really obvious what the reason is. It's not just to set yourself apart. That's for other stuff that we do for that.
Apart from other people.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. What was your
She also says you can't respect yourself in other ways. Like, if you're dressed like an escort, that's not self-respect. Like, this is leftist language. I dress for myself. I don't dress for others.
You dress for other people. Every single person, including men that get dressed, they know exactly what they're doing. They're dressing for other people. They're dressing to look professional for their customers at work. They're dressing to look attractive for a woman. If men know what they're doing, and you want to, whatever's on the inside comes out on the outside. How you want people to perceive you, whether it be smart or edgy or radical, a feminist, a Satanist, or godly, that comes through your clothing 100%. Don't let anyone lie to you about this. Like, my whole life, I've been conscious. Hey, I want people to perceive me as smart and professional. And when I go on a date, when I was going on a date, I wanted women to see me as attractive, and I dressed accordingly. Like, women are way more self-conscious about their image and their look. They want to be lusted after and worshipped by everyone, especially men. So they are lying. They are lying off their booty every time they say that they dress for themselves and not for men. No, every woman dresses for men.
reaction to the video, and don't hold back. Just tell me what you thought when you first saw it. Were you by yourself?
Yes. The first time I saw it was in a TikTok of somebody reacting to it. And I didn't know it was a new song. I didn't know where the song was from, but I just heard a 30-second clip of it and thought, that's gross. That's pretty much what I thought. I thought, oh, that's gross, but I'm not surprised, and I kept scrolling.
So why did you think it was gross? What was the deal?
I just thought it was framed in a weird way. The phrase modest is hottest is not a new phrase. It's something I've been hearing since I was young teenager. And the phrase modest is hottest in itself doesn't make sense to me, because the point of being modest isn't to look hot or sexually attractive. It's not modest isn't about being hot. I don't feel like that's the right phrase. And also, just in itself, a dad singing about his young teenage daughters, how they're supposed to look hot, or this is what the boys like, or I understood that it was a joke. It sounded like a joke, but not a tasteful joke.
Yeah.
And something that, even though it was a joke to him.
By the way, she's not that modest, by the way. She's wearing makeup. She's got fake nails. She has her hair done all like, look at me, aren't I beautiful, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So she's not dressed like that modestly. She's dressed in a way that she wants to be found attractive, and she's married, so that's inappropriate by other men. She can dress this way at home, but she shouldn't dress this way in public, especially not on the internet.
Right.
And I can understand that. People joke around about stuff. Putting it out there are so many people who will use it as not a joke, and who will gather things from that and play it as if it's scripture and not just joking around.
Sure. It's kind of like, people will say a racist joke and say, I was just kidding, it's just a joke, but yet it's very hurtful and harmful to people of color or whoever the joke is.
Again, Matthew Jansen's talking like a leftist right now. People of color, this is a racist term. That's literally an anti-white racist term, where all people that aren't white, that are tanner, that are darker, that are browner, gang up on the evil white people. Why is he using that term? I've never used that term my entire life, and I won't. It literally is it's an anti-white racist term. So, I don't know why he's using that term. And also, I've never been around anyone that made any jokes about other ethnicities. So that's strange if his group is. But that's just a him thing.
Is being addressed to, right?
Yourself.
My initial reaction was something that has been a pet peeve of mine since I started wearing tunics back in 2004. You were a little girl. And it is that anytime a song or a message or a book or whatever comes out about modesty, it's always directed to the women.
That's because men don't have a problem with modesty. Women do, right? It's so crazy. It's women that are dressing essentially naked in public. They're so naked, you can see their cleavage, their boobs popping out. You can see their butt cheeks hanging out. You can see their camel toe. And a lot of times their nipples, you can see their nipples through their clothes. They're so skin tight, and they're not dressed appropriately. You don't see this with men. Men are basically wearing big brown paper bags, right? They're wearing baggy pants and they're wearing baggy hoodies. You never see a man's penis out. This is not a problem with men. It's been the biggest problem in all of history with Western women since 1960. That's why they're addressing it to women. And by the way, I've actually never been in a church that actually addressed modesty to women. I've never heard any church, any biblical people ever, any conservative even, actually address female sin. So this is just gaslighting, projecting,
And it's like the women are the only ones that have to be modest. Now, I grew up in a culture where a lot of times if a visiting pastor would come in and preach, his wife would be dressed what we would consider modest dress, but he would have on tight pants or a tight shirt. 1 Timothy 2 was the only.
Yep, never seen that before. I don't know what church he's going to. Never seen that. Never seen a pastor with his penis popping out of his tight pants. Not one time. Or is it? They're always wearing a suit. Men's dress is a suit, right? It's like 3 layers. You literally can't see the male body at all. Baggy suits, that's just not even true.
Only verse ever quoted about modesty, and then when I studied it, I found in Genesis 3 where Adam and Eve were both given modest clothing in Genesis 3, after they fell into sin. So I do not like people who, just dictate towards the women.
Yeah, no one's doing that. No one's dictating to women. People are only roasting and criticizing and dictating towards men.
I find in church culture a lot of times that a lot of messages hammer down on women, and some women.
Yep. Nope. I've literally never heard a sermon where they hammer down on women. This is straight gaslighting. You know what gaslighting is? It's a lie. It's virtue signaling. It's a lie. He's lying right now.
This is
That's
like
a sin.
such a- like-
That's one of the 10 Commandments.
Like people get
He's bearing
squirmy
false
when you
witness.
start talking about female sin, like we're not supposed to die.
He's a coward. He is derelict of his role as a man, as a father, as a husband, and as a pastor by not addressing female sin. And it literally, we not only do we have one Jezebel, we have an entire culture, we have 3 continents, North America, Europe, and Australia, filled with Jezebels and Delilahs, right? It's not just the one-off.
That grew up in that type of church culture, they think it's normal. They don't realize that, hey, we're just being hammered.
As far as I know, we, Joel and Leor, Western Culture Through God's Eyes, and Pastor Dow from Straightway are the only ones talking about patriarchy, and that's just been, and just recently for us in the last 2 years. So talk about gaslighting.
Hammered and hammered and hammered, and the men are getting a free ride to do whatever they want to do or dress however they want to dress.
Well, I've noticed that the women, it's cover up,
Men never get a free ride for anything.
and any evangelical churches, the only thing they say to the men, for the women it's cover up, for the men it's don't dress gay. That's the only thing you hear about modesty. Keep your pants pulled up, keep your shirts tucked in, look like a man. That's the extent most of the time I've heard for men on modesty.
Okay, so gay is the wrong word. I think she'd be referring to like don't dress kind of like too casual or too ghetto or whatever. Like, yeah, then again, if their pants are too low, they say pull their pants up. That doesn't even happen with women. If they're like, if their shirt was untucked, she's literally just contradicting herself, right? If they don't follow the dress code. My entire time at church, there's been a dress code for men. It was either spoken or unspoken, right? Sometimes it was actually a tie. Other times it was business casual, but no man would ever be allowed to dress immodestly. No man came into church without a shirt on. No man came into church with a Speedo on with his penis and balls popping out. I mean, this is a lie, right? Gaslighting is a lie. Projection is a lie. Virtue signaling is a lie. False humility is a lie. That's a great sin.
Yeah. There's a line in the song, what the boys really love is a turtleneck and a sensible pair of slacks, and we laughed about that, but that phrase, what the boys really love, that bothered me. I felt like it was making the female out to be a sexual object. Like that was the reason that a woman was created, to be this sensual or sexual.
This is ridiculous. So women love making themselves sexual objects. Literally since 1960, like every woman is either in sex work or wants to be in sex work. Like, okay, who are the majority of strippers? Women. Like, who have been the majority of prostitutes throughout all of history today? Women. Who are the majority of concubines? Women. Who are the majority of models? Women. Who are the overwhelming majority of porn stars? Women. Like, who are the majority of models, right? And that monetize and leverage their beauty to get what they want? Women,
Sexual object.
It's assuming that.
And also too, like, God created us to be sexual. He didn't create us to be robots too, right? So as soon as you go through puberty, you're now sexual. God created that. That's not an evil or bad thing. That's why he wanted you to get married in your teens, so you could actually express that. Watch Dating for more on that. So you could actually express that in a healthy way. But now, including Republicans, conservatives, Christians, poor people, they don't let their kids get married in their teens, right? They say get married at 30 or later. So guess what happens? They have sex with everyone before that,
That when we get dressed, it's specifically for the male gaze, which isn't true. Some people do.
Lie. Straight up lie right there. Straight up lie.
On Fresh and Fit say,
Such a lie.
For myself.
They 100, yeah, exactly. But do women get dressed up in prom dresses at home, or do they get dressed up in the baggiest, comfiest sweatpants they have with no makeup and the hair is all in a bird's nest? This is a lie. She is lying to you. So lying ticks me off more than hardly anything else, and it's coming right from your community, guys. If you don't start calling it out, it's just going to keep getting worse.
Yeah, keep going.
Do that, but in a general rule, when we're getting dressed, we're not thinking like, how do we get men to look at us?
Lie.
A lot of times it's the opposite. A lot of times women want to avoid the negative.
Straight lie. She just straight up lied to your face. Women are primarily thinking about, how can I get everyone to look at me? How can I get attention? How can I get men to lust after me? How can I get men to want to talk with me, be with me, ask me on a date, marry me, etc., based on how I look, and also have sex with.
How women perceive me.
I want to be a bad bitch. I want to be a boss babe. I want to look like a goddess.
The whole purpose of dress is for other people to perceive you. I say, if nobody cared about how you were dressing, or you didn't care about how other people perceived you, everybody would be walking around naked. But clearly there are consequences to that, you know, right?
Right.
Lies, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Always. If you didn't care how people perceived you, you would exactly, you'd walk around naked or you'd walk around with a burqa, you know, like just for a joke.
Yeah, it's
Negative attention. And it's just drilled into us from a young, very young age that women are for men. You know, women are taught.
They are literally Yahuwah in Genesis, you know, chapter 3, verse 16, all the way to Paul in 1 Corinthians, literally says that the entire reason for woman's creation was for the man. You know,
to be his
like,
helpmate.
yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, what a freaking what a joke.
Women were made for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Women were made for Satan. They were made for themselves. Like men were made for God. Women were made for men. That literally is what all the scripture teaches.
Not taught about a lot of stuff, but it's women are for men. And even though, you know, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that, you're also taught that that's what you are worth to a man. Like if you don't do this, if you don't have sex with a person that you're dating, they won't stay with you. If you don't have sex with your husband whenever he wants to, he can cheat on you, and it's really your fault because you're not doing what he wants. Women are placed as sexual objects for men.
Okay, so this was a way to like manipulate the situation and phrase it, well, women should never have sex with their husband. Actually, it's actually a good thing if women turn down their husband. And so a man shouldn't have sex before marriage. And also when he's married, he shouldn't have sex either. Men should just be sexless their whole life. This is evil. This is so evil. And Paul says, like all the scriptures say, Paul says that your body's not your own and that it's a sin to turn down your spouse. He literally says that your spouse's body is your own and to deny them is a great sin, and that you actually are causing them to commit sexual immorality if you do that. Again, 1 Corinthians chapter 7.
Women act like being intimate with her husband is like some heavy labor.
It's the most
It's
wonderful
like
thing in the
lifting
world.
a stack of potatoes. Like
Yeah.
you're literally like,
It's one of the
if
things.
you don't love the person, then you don't care about them. It's a
Exactly.
loving
If you don't
distance.
have sex with your husband, it's because you don't love him and you're an evil woman, straight up, right? Like sex is one of the things that's free and it's so pleasurable and enjoyable and bonding, as we discussed on other videos. It scientifically bonds the woman to the man, making her more actually become one and like intimacy, etc.
And
If you don't have sex with your husband as a woman, you're evil. He should divorce you. That is divorce worthy. It says it in the Torah. If she's too rebellious or if she doesn't do her wifely duties, you are supposed to divorce her, right? And this kind of woman, these people teach women to divorce their men like hotcakes. Oh, you feel like it? Divorce, right? 80%, 70% of the divorce rates are filed by women. 80% of the reason, these are state statistics, look it up on Google, 80% is not because of abuse, it's not because of adultery, it's irreconcilable differences. Women are divorcing their husbands that they've dated for who knows how long for irreconcilable differences. This is an abomination. Dating's practice for divorce. The reason divorce happens is because Satan has came to women. Women have always loved Satan since Eve, and they've decided to be evil. They decided to turn on men, and thus God. You can't be in good standing with God if you don't have a husband and submit to do him good, not evil all the days of his life. Watch Western went through God's eyes on that. We list 43 verses on it.
I also want to say is that I have seen, you know, Pearl Davis, just really things she mentions a lot recently. She's been talking about how churchy women are actually some of the worst quality women. But I've noticed that the Torah women are even worse because now they realize like, oh, like we should obey Yahuwah's law. And now they feel like the arbiters of that law, like the dictators. And they're some of the most feminist, abrasive, belligerent women that I've ever encountered. It's really shocking.
Yahuwah said for Adam, the men to have dominion over the earth. And part of men's responsibility, their primary responsibility is having authority over and controlling and policing women. And you know, men police other men, women do not police other women. So if men don't police women, it's not going to get done, right? And that's what we've seen over the last 64 years. So that absolutely is your responsibility as a man. If you're not doing that, you're not a man. You are a little girl. You are negligent of your role that God designed you. You are required to do that. That is absolutely your God designed role. So
as their own worthy being.
That reminds me of a phrase or a term that I've learned in the last few years. Now, I think
standalone sovereign. You know, it takes the men out of the picture. Like you don't need a husband. You're by yourself.
You don't need no man. Is that the biblical message? Exactly.
It's convenience, and I feel like I'm listening to The View right now.
Exactly. It's like we're listening to Oprah, the biggest feminist out there. Yeah, we're listening to Gloria Steinem. We're listening to Betty Friedman, right? We're not listening to biblical people. Not listening to conservatives. We're not listening to either a Christian or Torah person right now. We're listening to feminists. We're listening to Satanists right here.
I grew up in this and just didn't realize it. And I'll get into in a second how I've had to reform my understanding on some things. But
there you go. Matthew Jansen, because of feminism over the decades, is now conforming to feminism. Guys, we told you this was a thing, and now we're specifically going to be calling out all the feminists in our community, because if we can't get our community on the right page on patriarchy, we have no chance of getting the rest of the country or the rest of the Western world on this page.
Me and you chatted a little bit about purity culture in text messages, and that kind of sounds like that's where you're getting at with your last comments, is purity culture. And I listened to an interview. A friend of mine, his wife, was interviewed about that. Tell me what that is. What
he wants female viewership and money. He's corrupt. He knows that if he speaks against the evil satanic female culture that we have in our society, he's going to lose at least half or more of his audience. That is the motivation. That is corrupt, and we are calling it out.
Grasp that.
Purity culture is a mindset in the...
Now, it's ethereal. You're right. It's got nothing to do with any reality on the ground. Now it's ethereal. We're going into Buddhism here. Great. Well, yeah, let's listen to a little girl.
Evangelical Christian church. It's a mindset and a teaching of abstinence only until marriage. But it's not just in the biblical sense of the law. Mm-hmm. Like, it is biblical to wait till marriage to have sex. Sure. But it is a mindset of, this is the only thing we talk about. All we tell you is wait and nothing else. So not children, but young adults, younger people are not being taught anything. I have friends who didn't know what sex was until they were 18.
All right, this is a total lie. This is pardon my French. This is total bullshit. I can't, it really bothers me when just women lie 24/7 and no man corrects them. It's so crazy. And of course, women aren't going to do it. That's not true. There's no one in the history of the world that didn't know what sex was until they were 18. I was raised in this culture where it was very anti-premarital sex, right? It was all about waiting until marriage, and my mom was huge on that, right? They never had a sex talks with us. And when we found out, what we did? I was in private Christian school, the whole 9 yards. We asked our friends, and we looked it up in an encyclopedia book, and we asked our friends, and we found it. I found out in 3rd grade, and I literally kept badgering my mom before puberty, as a little kid, like, hey, where do babies come from? And trying to figure it out and everything. I figured out in 3rd grade. 3rd grade, and we were going to church like almost every day, and I went to private Christian school. I found it in 3rd grade. This is total bullcrap. That's a straight up lie.
And having a baby. Didn't know anything. It's being taught to the women, cover up.
I didn't know what sex was, and he had a cylinder and she had a hole. We put it in, and 9 months later a baby came out. We were so surprised. We had no idea how that worked, and we were like 20, 30 years old.
If a boy looks at you, he's going to have bad thoughts. That's your fault. You're called.
Are you naked? Yeah, that is your fault then. If you were dressed modestly, his mind wouldn't go there. If you didn't want to be a sex object, you'd dress modestly like Lior has been in recent times. Oh, if you're not dressed modestly, you do want to be a sex object. That's like the guys are like the Calvin Klein models with tight boxer briefs and their penis popping out and like shredded abs. Like, oh, I didn't want to be a sex object. The reason we were Calvin Klein models is we wanted to be valued for our brains, smart scholars, historians. And then women lust after that. Oh my gosh, you know what? It's not the Calvin Klein naked models that's not their fault. It's the women's fault for lusting at the naked man. She used to see a naked man and just think Bible thoughts about him,
Causing him to have lustful thoughts. It's putting so much emphasis on that one thing over all others. I think because a lot of parents are scared of the things that could happen to your children. It's putting so much emphasis on that one thing, and it leads to teenagers having bad relationships with sex, porn addictions, because they go to look to the internet for things that they are not learning at home. It's lustful thoughts in men and women, because nobody's being taught. It's an emphasis too on the woman, because the men are not being
All right, that's not true, right? I've heard porn demonized my entire life, right? All of my 36 years is demonized every single Sunday. I have never heard literotica demonized in church, right? 50 Shades of Grey. It's the biggest section in the bookstore. It's female porn. Women prefer soft porn and like visually, and they also prefer to read their porn rather than watch their porn. It's the same porn. Actually, men are targeted on this issue 24/7 till the cows come home, and women don't get a single sermon on it.
Taught that they're being taught, you know, don't watch porn, don't have sex, but they're also being taught that they're being taught if a woman's dressed that way, you're going to.
And on dating, by the way, our video for 4.5 hours, we actually do talk about that parents should have the sex talk with their kids, you know, when they ask about it. So
lust after them, which
That's
isn't
just
automatic.
That's just, you were designed to see the opposite sex and feel aroused.
Exactly. In order for sex to work, like this is God's design. He designed men to see a woman naked and then get an erection, right? The blood to actually respond that way. That's God's design. That's not evil. He's not evil for doing that. That's crazy. Like when a woman sees a naked man, he designed her to be self-lubricated so that sex could happen. Like this is not evil. This is God's design. That's why God said, hey, everyone have modest dress, except when you're in private, you know, in your tent, in your home with your husband and your wife, and just get naked in that context, because it's going to happen regardless. You're going to be interested in anyone naked.
Yahuwah said, everybody.
I said that early before the video.
True.
Sure.
And women are being taught if you dress this way, men are going to have thoughts about you. If you go to a party,
yeah, because that's God's design. Imagine that.
And you're dressed bad and you get raped, you shouldn't have been dressed that way.
Okay, why are you going to a party if you're a godly woman? You shouldn't do that. People go to parties to hook up with the opposite gender, right? Get drunk, do drugs, like kiss and hook up and have sexual activity. Number one, rape is against the law. It comes with at least a 7-year prison sentence. And the stats, women are lying about rape 24/7. If she didn't file a police report, rape didn't happen. This is one of the most evil things out there. Men's lives are being ruined by false rape allegations. And we can go back to Genesis and see that they always have done this, right? With Potiphar's wife. Potiphar's wife tried to rape Joseph, then she turned around and said that Joseph tried to rape her, and he got a prison sentence for it. Women love the false rape allegation. It's absolutely absurd.
That's why we have the law that unless she was screaming, fighting, she's all marked up and beat up, and it looks like she just got like attacked by a wild animal trying to fight for her life, then she was not contesting.
It was consensual, exactly. Torah says, Yahuwah says, God says to Moses, he said, unless a woman forcibly resists, she's screaming for help, right? Screaming for help. She's fighting, scratching, biting, clawing, right? The man, you know, etc. She's doing everything she can to resist. Then it does not count as a rape because it was consensual. It's almost like they knew female nature throughout all of history and they don't now. That's what it looks like when it's a rape, when you don't want it. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, like in fact, every woman's favorite sexual fantasy is the rape fantasy. So you got to understand women, they're sociopathic, they're liars, and they love to lie about rape the most. She has to violently resist if it's actual rape and then file a police report. If she doesn't do that, she's lying. Absolutely don't believe all women.
What she's leading to is it's not even godly women. Like if you go to it, everybody says that rape is bad, but nobody's saying like, hey, why are you walking in the middle of the night dressed like a hooker all by yourself? Like there is no accountability on women. And this is again, people trying to squirm out of like holding of actually criticizing women and you know, when you go to a party like this and you're not a biblical person, you go to a party, you get drunk, you have sex, like that's called a regrettable sexual experience. That's not called something happened to you. That means you did something stupid and you regret it. And that's what she's describing.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, oh, I dressed with a skirt that I couldn't even bend down in. And then I wondered why people were looking at me. So again, no discussion. They're saying people are criticizing women and they shouldn't, and they know that it's wrong. Like even this, they're just like squirming out of it. It's really strange.
Yep. This is what happens at parties, right? In college, like both boys and girls go to parties, both young men and women go to parties. They're adults. They're totally adults. They're not children, right? They're 18 or older, 18, 19, 18 all the way to 26 years old. They get drunk. Alcohol actually makes women significantly more horny than men, right? And so they have sex, and when the woman wakes up, she's like, oh shoot, he wasn't my boyfriend. I feel romantically bad about that. Or he doesn't want to go on a date and he doesn't want to make it a relationship after that. You know, oh, he wasn't as hot as I would have liked him to be. You know, oh, he didn't marry me afterwards. Oh, I regret that. Oh, I was raped because I regret it. No, you were foolish and you got buzzed and drunk. You had a consensual drunk sex session, and then you just regret it later, that's entirely the woman's fault, right? Men do that all the time, and they don't have that regret over it, right? Why is that? Because God designed men and women differently. Men can actually have all kinds of sexual activity and it not mess them up mentally at all, but for women it does, right? That's why he said he wanted women to be virgins at marriage. Because it does, because it's actually scientific. Watch our other videos for that. But like the semen seeps in and conforms them to the man. That's why a woman wants to marry every single guy she has sex with, because that semen seeps into her DNA, and his dominant gene actually overpowers her weaker gene, and now she has his DNA in her. That's why she wants to marry him, right? That's why they feel so regretful. You know, that's why that's why they want to marry every single guy they have sex with, even though they had no intention before.
They say that the man used them when they went in with the exact, like they're actually predatory. I made a post on Facebook, like when you see a woman dressing this way in public, like provocatively, scandalously, that's because she is actually the predator, because women have so much more to gain from men.
When women don't dress modestly, they're predators. They're absolute predators. What they're trying to do is they're trying to seduce you with the way they look, so they can extort you, so they can get your money, so they can use you as a bodyguard, get your power and protection, right? So it's predatory. When a woman dresses scandalously, she's a predator.
Right.
So it's always the girl's fault.
It is always the girl.
Nope. Actually, we say it's always the man's fault in our culture today. They both lied on camera. They both lied in 4K to the world. No, today we say we are the only, and Pastor Dow are the only ones, and Pearl Davis, just Pearly Things, are the only ones saying that actually most things are women's fault today. Every single other person, 99% of the Western world is saying it's always the man's fault, and the woman, oh, even though she's equal or better than men, nothing's ever her fault. She's more innocent than a child. We hold children more accountable than we do women.
What's so ironic is they argue for egalitarianism, but then they're like, but at the same time, any shortcomings of women are the men's fault. So like women are capable, just as capable as men, but if they fail, it's because of the men. Make up your mind.
Exactly. Yeah. Playing both sides of the aisle. So disingenuous. It's a lie.
Girl's fault. And we're taught, women are a lot of times taught that we are for our husband's pleasure. But I've heard it said many times to women, women are not supposed to enjoy sex. That's a man's thing.
No one says that today. For the last 64 years, sex has been all about how can we please women, right? When I was in 5th grade, I wanted to understand women. It was like my life's mission. Like, oh, I want to understand women, and I don't want to be one of the guys that they complain about. And I want to find out all about them, how I can make them happy, in every single way, romantically and sexually. When I was in 5th grade, I looked at a Men's Health magazine, and all it was about how to please a woman, how to like stimulate her at 3 different parts all at the same time so that she could have multiple orgasms.
You need a third arm.
Yeah, exactly. You need a third arm. Exactly. Nope. All we care about is actually sexually pleasing women. It's actually, it's the exact opposite of what she's saying right now. And that was like that was way back in the 90s.
And you're taught not to do that before you get married, but you're also taught if you don't do it, then they're not going to stay with you. So it's a whole thing.
Okay, cool. So if men should stay with women that don't have sex with them, then women should stay with men that don't protect or provide for them, right? Every single person in the world says, nope, you leave him. He's not protecting you, he doesn't provide for you, you leave. See the double standard here?
And then when you get married, so women end up disappointed because there's no education, there's no respect, and there's not a two-way street of communication and respect for each other. As
this is cringe. This is so, what a turnoff.
If you go to the
communication and respect. That like talk about the most unsexy thing you've ever heard of in your life. Like,
you go to the bedroom and you're like, respect.
Communication and respect. Are we talking about like work in like a boss employee relationship where there's proper communication and respect, or are we talking about a husband and wife where it's supposed to be sexy and pleasurable and enjoyable?
Yeah,
this is
spontaneous,
so cringe. Feminist,
This makes
I feel bad for her husband.
This makes men even afraid to have sex with their wives. Like,
you can tell
do something.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh no, this even in the confines of your own marriage. Now they say that
you can tell they have a sexist marriage.
Wife. Like.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. What an abomination. What an abomination. But a woman.
You can't rape your own husband. That's impossible.
Exactly. But financial rape isn't rape at all. You can literally cheat on your husband and leave him for another man, and then he still has to pay you child support. You are financially raping the man. That's such an abomination, So they have a sexless marriage. I'm glad that they just like put that out there. Just in case you guys are wondering, TMI, like Leora and I have a really regular spicy sex life. So, you know, like feminism is killing your sex life.
Individuals under Yahweh.
In Matthew chapter 5 in the Sermon on the Mount, you know, I recently preached through Matthew chapter
God.
5, and there was a section in there about if you look upon a woman or gaze upon a woman, the World English Bible says, to lust after in your heart, you've already committed adultery. And it looks like in Matthew 5 that Yeshua is always contrasting his understanding of Torah with the Pharisees' understanding of Torah. And I came across in my sermon pointing out that
Okay, Christians
was putting the
Christians love this for, oh, we'll finish this for
blame on the person doing the lust.
So, okay, you're not violating Torah if you walk around naked, right, or in underwear. But you are violating Torah if you're in public and you happen to see a woman naked in public. Oh, then the person that just got violated, the person just trying to mind their own business, go grocery shopping, is the person that did the sin. Okay, so adultery is doing adultery in person. There's no such thing as thoughts. Okay, thoughts aren't sins. We're gonna make a whole nother video on this. Thoughts are not sins. If thoughts are sins, you know who the biggest sinner in the world would be? Yahuwah. Because not only does he know, has he watched every sin that's ever taken place, but he knows our thoughts, apparently. So he knows every thought even worse than our actions. So Yahuwah is the biggest sinner in the world. He knows our thoughts.
He is conscious of our thoughts. That means he's thinking our thoughts. That means he's thinking it.
Exactly.
That means he's sinning. By this logic.
Yep.
Right? We're not saying that this is
Exactly. So you know, by that logic too, Joseph would have been the rapist because rather than, you know, there would be no such thing as self-control, right? Joseph would have been the rapist, not Potiphar's wife. No, Potiphar's wife was the adulterer, was the rapist, not Joseph, right? James actually tells you how sin happens. You know, in James it says, first it starts out as a small thought, and then you dwell on the thought continually forever, right? And then you dwell on it, and you have, you know, imaginations, and it keeps growing, and growing, and then you think about how to act on it, and then you eventually act on it. And then and he says at that point, the action's the sin. Only actions are sin. Violating Torah is sin, not thoughts, nothing ethereal. Nope, thoughts aren't sins. Otherwise, you guys would be guilty of all the crimes and sexual scenes you'd see in a movie. You know, if that's the case, then studying World War II and studying the Holocaust means that you're guilty of the Holocaust because you studied it, you thought about it. That's insane. Clearly, that's not the case. And then James says, once you continue to sin perpetually your whole life on that sin, right? without ceasing to sin, that's when it says the sin matures and then you die, you perish, you get thrown into the fire. James tells you how sin happens, and the thought itself is not the sin, right? If you do catch yourself thinking the thought you're not supposed to think, okay, awesome, you caught it. Catch it real quick and then think about something else. A thought is not a sin, right? That's the whole point of self-control. If a thought was sin, you couldn't have self-control. Self-control wouldn't be a thing that even makes any sense. Right? So sins are actions, they're not thoughts.
Covetousness is like wanting something that belongs to someone else. So like not saying like, oh, that's an attractive woman.
Like serious
totally
coveting and planning.
That's
exactly.
saying, wow, I wish that was my wife, and therefore what can I do to make that mine?
Exactly.
You know, or that house is nice, I want that house to be mine, rather than wow, I wish I could have that house. Like these are nuanced things, but it's
David and Bathsheba didn't commit adultery when they thought about it. They committed adultery when they had sex and they were both married, right? and Potiphar's wife didn't commit, like, think about it. She dwelled on it. Like, so Joseph didn't commit adultery, right? He flew from it, but he definitely thought about it. She came on to him. She was naked, half naked, or all the way naked. And he ran and grabbed her garments and got him naked, etc. Potiphar's wife was the one who planned it, dwelled on it, coveted, right? So if anyone committed adultery in their heart, it would have been Potiphar's wife. So that scenario, right? It's not just you're walking about your day, oops, I accidentally committed adultery. Oh my gosh. I just saw a woman and she was attractive. I accidentally saw her and I committed adultery.
Walk in public,
like,
then you know, you have to be cognizant of your thoughts. This is the gift that humans have, being conscious of your thoughts. This is stuff animals don't have the ability of. But like if this were true, you would not be able to watch any movie. You couldn't go into a mall where they have lingerie freaking things, you know, and the list goes on. So all sin originates in covetousness, so therefore you should not covet, but thinking things is not coveting them, you know.
Yep.
And not necessarily on the person that was being lusted at. Now, like you said, men or women could dress provocatively on purpose to try to get a woman to look after him or a man to look after her. But when I go out in the world, obviously there are people that live in the world that don't serve Yahweh or are not even Christian or religious. So I'm going to see people dressed in all different ways, when I knock on the door to do my next job. It's my responsibility as a follower of Yahweh, number one, and as a man of Yahweh, number two, to control my eyes and cast down thoughts that might come into my head.
This is so awkward. So now Matthew Jansen is talking about the process of getting turned on and getting a boner to his daughter. Talk about freaking inappropriate. Like, your husband should be there,
According to the
Yeah, exactly.
words of Yeshua. It seems like in purity culture, or in a lot of evangelicism, if that's the right word, that's really not talked about. It's more, you're always the reason.
Let me just tell you what they just said. The woman who's naked is not committing a sin, right? Trying to get you to lust after her. No, she just wanted to be naked because she's a nudist. But the man who accidentally, was in public and happened to see her naked, oh, he's the sinner. No, he's the sinner. Like, this is entirely backwards. No, the woman naked is the one committing the sin, not the guy who was in public minding his business and accidentally was freaking violated by a naked woman.
Yeah.
That the man is lusting.
Yeah.
So, it's not that we're okaying. Like you said, you mentioned at the beginning, you believe in modesty, and I believe in modesty. But when a person is lusting after another individual, they could be dressed modestly, and they still get lusted after.
Nope, that doesn't happen. That's just not the reality on the ground. Nobody lusts after people that are modest. That's the whole point. Like, like, so in our early in our relationship, before, we started practicing modesty, like, like Lior, wore a bikini, like at the pool, the beach early on in our dating before our channel. And obviously she would have got more people to lust after in that context. And since she's been wearing a head cover and like modest dresses that we bought her, etc., like more covering, clothing, yeah, I can guarantee you the lust has gone all the way down. Like, no one's lusting
People
after
are
with a
like,
head cover
why
on.
is she wearing a potato sack? And I'm like, I love
They're-
my potato sack.
Yeah.
So much.
Am I right in
Yeah,
saying
it's
that? Yeah.
framed that women are the ones who dress immodestly, and we need to dress modestly to keep men from lusting.
Yeah.
And men, it's just framed that you are lustful. When really both men and women can dress immodestly, and both men and women have problems with lust.
This is what they always do. When women are guilty of a sin, they say, but what about the Mendo? We're going to make a whole video on this, and it's called, but what about the Mendo syndrome? But the Mendo syndrome, no matter what a woman is guilty of, that sin being called out on, instead of addressing, oh my gosh, I'm sinned, I'm sorry, I will do things differently now, I won't do that anymore, they say, but what about the men though? Deflecting. This is evil. This is childish behavior. An adult takes accountability for wrongdoing. Women don't do that across the board. They're not doing that. What does that say? Yeah, we've already told you on another video.
Lust. A lot of youth groups you go to, the boys are allowed to be shirtless at the swimming pool, but the women have to wear the super big t-shirt and shorts, and that's a double standard.
All right. So
there's nothing wrong with double standards.
yeah, exactly. Okay.
Like,
so okay,
life is a double standard. There are different standards for men and there are different standards for women. Newsflash.
you can make the case that, okay, fine, no one goes swimming or whatever, etc. But the thing is that men don't have any private parts on the upper part of their body. We're not a unisex. We're not the same. Women have private parts on their upper body, right? Like, so, the private parts would be the breasts, the vagina, the butt, and so you have to cover that up. Women have all four of those things, all three of those things popping out, right? Men don't. They have big baggy pants. Their penis and their butt is completely covered. Their sexual parts are totally modestly covered. That analogy doesn't hold weight at all. So we got more gaslighting, projecting, and lying here. Great.
And it also creates so much shame in men and women. Women feeling shameful about their bodies, not because it's
oh, we know that's not true. No matter how obese they are, they're naked everywhere on the internet and in public saying how hot they are and they're perfect 10s. This is more lying here.
Modest or immodest, just feeling shame in general, feeling like there's something.
We need more shame. That's actually what made our culture so good in the past and why it's so bad now, is because there's no shame.
Wrong with their bodies, and men feeling like there's something wrong with them, that they have to be lustful. And I've talked to women I've had friends that I've had friend relationships with who have told me how that when they got married, they still felt shameful about having a sexual relationship with their husband because their whole life they were drilled into that this is a bad thing. And how come it's purity?
All right, so this is her parents' fault. So this is also shows you how girls are not the same as boys, right? Women aren't the same as men, right? Women feel so guilty about sex, unless when they want to be worshipped and manipulate men for money, right? Men don't have these hangups at all. But like parents should not teach kids that sex is a bad thing. They should teach it's one of the best things that Yahuwah created. And that's why we want you to have your very own husband or wife in your teens so you can have sex in a healthy, moral way every day forever, right? That's what Christian Torah parents should be raising their kids with. But guess what? They're not. If you're a parent and you don't raise your kids like that, right? What we just said, it's positive about sex, but you should arrange a marriage for them in their teens. You're part of the problem. You're a leftist, and you're actually guilty for whatever your kid does sexually from then on out. You have to provide them a practical, historical, godly alternative.
Purity, and then somehow when you get married, you're not pure anymore. When purity is not solely based on virginity. Purity is a lifestyle. It's not something.
There we go. Purity is how you feel in your head and in your heart. It's not actual reality. No, purity is 100% if you're a woman and you're a virgin at marriage. That's what purity is.
Porn star.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Purity.
you're born again.
You know, you may
Virgin or
not be.
whatever. That's not even a term. We roast that, but like
You can be a corn star and have sex with 5,000 people that aren't your husband, but if you feel pure on the inside, then you're pure. Like, this is bullshit, and we're calling it out. This is so evil,
Something that goes away.
How'd you get so smart? When I was...
Okay, so he's beta simping to his daughter. Unbelievable. She's not smart at all.
Let's see. This was early 2000s, so I was in my 20s, maybe your age, a little bit older. I was given an article, and the article was called, I don't know if I ever told you about this, the article was called The Sin of Bathsheba. And the entire article was about women not causing men to lust by the way that they're dressed, and it was placing the sin on Bathsheba. Now, I didn't understand it or call it purity culture, but I grew up in some of that, maybe not necessarily from the way my parents taught me, but just church, being around churchy people, growing up like that. So I understand now that article was whack, like it was totally wrong.
I don't know how you could read that story and then say the sin of Bathsheba.
Yeah,
Oh.
so I studied.
Oh my God. Again, total feminism, total matriarchy. They're going to go on for more, but the thing is they were both in the wrong, right? David obviously committed adultery. What's adultery? Adultery is a man actually having sex with a married woman. That's what adultery is. Or a woman being married, having sex with another man. So there isn't one single verse dedicated to Bathsheba protesting in any way, shape, or form. Women are hypergamous, like Esther. They always wanted to be in the harem of the king. They always want to be the man that's the most famous, that's the richest, that's the hottest. They want to be with them. They don't have morality. They only have morality when there are consequences, and they're afraid of the consequences. They don't do the right thing because it's the right thing. Both of them were guilty of adultery. There's not one verse dedicated to Bathsheba protesting and say, hey, King David, this is wrong. I have a husband. This is so wrong to Uriah. I'm loyal. This is adultery. It's a sin. No, please don't have us go through this. She was equally, the only assumption that you can make is that she was equally as excited, if not more so, than David to go through with this adultery.
Study the Bible for a living now, right? So I read in, Samuel, the book of, I think it's 2 Samuel, where it talks about that whole episode with David and Bathsheba and Uriah and Prophet Nathan. And it's like, when Yahweh sends the prophet Nathan, he goes to David. He tells him the story about the sheep. He goes to David. He tells him the story about the sheep and the poor man and the rich man. And David says, that's a man of death. He needs to pay back fivefold, or fourfold or something like that. I can't remember the text, but and then Nathan tells David, you're the man. And you've caused a reproach on Yahweh by what you've done. And we know that David had a repentant heart, and Yahweh forgave him for his sin. But his child that Bathsheba was pregnant with, he died, and he lost his other sons as well, if you continue to read. So the Bible does say that he sinned. I don't see anywhere in there where it says Bathsheba was in the wrong. She probably was doing what was normal to do for a man.
Saying that Bathsheba knew what she was doing. She was on the roof for a reason. She knew that David was going to be watching her, and she was trying to seduce him. The Bible does not allude to that anywhere.
Exegesis, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He specifically was going out of his way to lust after a married woman that was not his wife.
Yeah. What do you think about people that say, I think this could be plausible and I haven't looked into it, but that David raped Bathsheba? Do you think that's probably what took place?
I think that it is a comparable situation to a president. Think about Esther and the king. You can't even go before the king without an audience because he can kill you.
Right.
So I don't know if he specifically, we don't know if it was two-sided or if Bathsheba wanted to be with David or not. She probably did love her husband.
Sure.
But if somebody is brought to the king, you know in your mind there is so much he was using his position to take advantage of her, because if you go before an audience of the king, you know you have to do what the king says. And you can disagree with that, but then you're worried about your own safety
Sure.
and your own family, her husband, what he might have done to her or her family.
Mhm.
So maybe it wasn't that case, but I could totally see it was definitely abuse of power.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Abuse of power. He was the highest authority in the land as the king of Israel.
Okay,
All right, yeah. So many things to unpack here. Yeah, you want to go first? You want to go first? Me too.
okay, first of
Yeah.
all, like, let me get this straight. Oh, everybody demonizes David, everybody knows it's a bad deal.
Real quick, and I'll let you say the rest of it. So two things can be true at the same time. So yes, actually, I'll even admit that like greater fault lies with David. However, Bathsheba's not faultless either. They always say rape, and like when a woman commits adultery today by complete voluntary choice out of pure lustful sin, it's like, oh, you know what? It's really her husband's fault because women only cheat for good, emotional, abstract, ethereal, altruistic reasons. So he must have not loved her enough. So therefore her adultery was justified. And this is the exact kind of leftist feminist propaganda bullcrap that we're hearing right out of Matthew Jansen's mouth. Supposedly a conservative man, supposedly a Torah man, supposedly a patriarchal man, and out of his daughter, complete feminist. Don't be fooled. So here's the thing. So more fault lies with David, but Bathsheba absolutely committed adultery. There's not one verse to her saying she didn't want it, to say she was resisting. Are you kidding me? Do we not know women? Women like absolutely would kill and give their right arm to be with the richest man in the country, the most famous man in the country, the best looking man in the country. You're darn right. So here's the thing is David might have initiated the sin, but she participated with the sin too and enjoyed it 100%. There is not a single verse that says Bathsheba didn't want this, that she protested. And here's the thing. What's David going to do? David is going to commit adultery and then have some man's wife killed, right? And then have Uriah killed. Like, so he's going to kill like in front of like the Sanhedrin and the prophet Nathan and get away with it scot-free. This is God's holy nation. So he's going to be able to just do something so wicked and get away with it.
Yes.
It's a small town. The Jerusalem was the city of Jerusalem was at its smallest. The city of David, go look at the geography and the archaeology. It was a small town. Everyone knew what everyone else was doing. You couldn't just get away with just atrocious murders, just without everyone knowing and calling him out on it. And again, this was the only nation in the world that was actually based on morality, based on Torah, based on law. The other empires could have done that, absolutely. Like with Persia and Xerxes and Esther, but not this one. So two things can be true at the same time. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, when you think about it, it's actually the first empire where the king, the anointed one, was actually put in check by the high priest Zadok. So let me get this straight. David would call upon Uriah. She would show up. He'd say, hey, let's do the deed. And she's like, no. And he's like, okay, now I'm going to put you to death. He's like, Nathan, Levites, put this woman to death. Okay, king, why are we putting this woman to death? Because she didn't sleep with me. But sir, she's married. It doesn't matter. I'm
Imagine how that would go.
Imagine how that would go, exactly.
David wasn't unanimously carrying out death sentences. He would have other people do that for him, and it would have to be according to Torah.
Exactly.
It would have to be justified.
She's like, I'm sure that Bathsheba loved her husband. Well, it doesn't allude to that either.
It doesn't say that.
At the end of the day, we're giving what went down, and they are actually putting exegesis into this.
Exactly. This is totally their speculation, totally their personal opinion, totally their feminist exegesis, right?
Exactly.
The text doesn't say any of that. As far as we can tell, obviously David wanted it. Obviously David was doing something immoral. But as far as we can tell, Bathsheba equally wanted it and equally was doing something immoral. And the only person that got screwed in this story is Uriah. Poor Uriah. Ever since I was a kid and I read this story, I was like, I can't believe David could do something so evil. I can't believe Bathsheba was okay with it. No, not one word of protest, no violent resistance, no screaming, not even one word recorded as a protest in scripture. And there darn well would have been if David was exclusively the bad guy. Guys, people commit adultery consensually all the time today. Why would you think it's anything different back then? So poor Uriah, like this is, you know who got raped? The greatest grape in the situation was against Uriah. David raped Uriah of his life. That's who got raped. You know, I'm so sick and tired of these evil women, you know, saying that that they're the ones getting raped when men are getting raped. Totally, but Uriah's life was taken from him unconsensually. That is the highest form of rape that you can imagine. You know, like, oh my gosh, like, you know, people today have countless partners. It doesn't ruin you for life. You know, I think getting murdered is a lot worse than having sex that you were 100% tantalized about. What a freaking joke. This is absolute matriarchy. This is the oppression of men. It's misandry. It's sexist against men. We're not having it.
Yeah, and this is just a perfect example of feminists, feminist men particularly, like with women, we already know they're sexist in favor of women, but it's really like men are expected to revere the compass, you know, to a more righteous state. And this is just really sad to see Matthew Jansen, squiggle out of any accountability from women. Women can't sin. She's a victim, perpetual victimhood. No, women can't sin. It's just impossible for her to have done anything wrong. When the text doesn't allude to that, they're actually putting their own exegesis. They were both in the wrong, and why can't we just say that? Why are they pushing that agenda? This is an agenda, people. And so it's really problematic. I would say like 85% of our population, all women, all leftist men, and half of Republican men, half of church-going men, half of Torah men, half of conservative men. They're not, they're really liberal. Everything but half of conservative men, so 85% of the population, thinks that women can't sin, that they're not capable of sin. You're literally putting women on God's status, on Yahuwah's status. You have to submit to the women. You have to serve the women. You have to care about the women's, not all their needs, but every single one of their wants, even their secret wants that they may not even know and be able to communicate to you perfectly. Pearl talks about this perfectly. Men have replaced God with women. Women are men's new God. This is an abomination. This is Satanism, and this is not going to be okay on Judgment Day. Every single man that places women in the place of God will absolutely be tortured and fired. Case closed. Absolutely case closed. You have to do what God tells you to do. You can't, like, guys, if it's based on belief in grace alone, it's a one-way street. Satan is going to get all the rewards. He's going to paradise forever, right? Because Satan believes way more than any of you have ever believed. He has seen, he believes. It's because he rebels, he disobeys, he sins, right? Every person that does not practice patriarchy and Torah does not keep the fullness, entirety of God's law to the best of their variability. And God knows your heart. You should be worried. Watch that video. Will be going to Hades and Sheol, which is the same description as the lake of fire. You know, watch what happens when you die and debunking soul sleep for more on that one. Patriarchy is not optional. Imagine if kids, imagine if kids violently rebelled against their mother. Would they be in good standing with God? No, and neither will women. All right, go to. I mentioned it before. I'll just touch on it again. It's impossible to rationalize this. You're saying that women they're not capable of the same things, but what they're capable of is equally as important and valuable as men, even though we know that without men building the infrastructure and all that women would die. But you're saying, oh, it's equally as valuable. So therefore, in that sense, they're on the same playing field, but at the same time, they can't sin. So it's like, make up your mind. Are they capable or are they incapable? They can't be both when it's convenient, when it's not convenient.
We literally say,
them to a standard or not holding them to a standard. Okay, either the men are to lead and all women's shortcomings are to blame on men, or women can lead themselves as sovereign agents, and they should be held accountable for their own poor choices.
The only way that we can blame everything on men is if we have 100% patriarchy unquestioned. If women have absolutely no agency or freedom whatsoever, if they're under complete control of their father, then their husband, and men at large, they have absolutely no privileges or rights. Only if we actually had entire patriarchy, like they did all of history, can we actually say that women, that all women's shortcomings or flaws are on the man because they have no freedom or agency, to act outside of their husband's will, out of men's will. We don't have that. So what we're saying is that women are more pure and they're more capable in every way, physically, mentally, emotionally than men, but also they can't be held accountable for anything less than children. Make up your mind. Either women are less than children, or they're the same or greater than men. And whichever one it is, if they're less than children, great, patriarchy. Yeah, they don't get feminism. If they're equal or greater than men, then we should be criticizing them 24/7 and everything's their fault, like we do men. Make up your mind, idiots. You know, this is such a hypocritical, sexist, misandrous thought process that almost every one of you hold. It's not okay. Men, grow a backbone. Grow a freaking back, grow a brain, grow a heart, grow a backbone, grow some balls. It's an abomination the way you are in the West. It's an abomination. It's not okay. Absolutely disgusting. Like the biblical men would be like throwing up, rolling in their graves if they saw you. If they can see you from paradise and Sheol, they're like, they can't believe the abomination you have become. You're absolute sodomites is what you are. You're all Ahabs. Like Matthew Jansen right now is he's committing the sin of Adam, right? He thinks he's being benevolent. Oh, I'll give Eve what she wants. Eve gave me the fruit. I'll do what she wants. And then damns himself and everyone else. You have to say no to women. You have to teach them and correct them. Discipline them. That's your role as a man. If you're not doing that, you're not a man. Did you hear that? If you're not doing that, you're not a man. You're a little baby boy, your little son husband. Get some freaking balls. For F's sake, it's ridiculous. Like little women that are children have more balls than you do. It's ridiculous. Talk about transgenderism. Why are you so upset about transgenders? You guys all agreed to be transgenders in 1960. 64 years. You've all been transgenders on the inside already. You know, your line is, your line is, oh, you're going to be upset with men in women's sports? Are you freaking kidding me? Women shouldn't even be playing sports in the first place. No one watches women's sports. Not even women. Like watching women's sports is like watching children's sports. It's stupid, right? You want to watch the pros, like you want to watch like the professional male athletes because they're obviously the strongest and the best at their craft. You know, what a freaking joke.
Yeah, it's
See, there's essentially no conservative men in the West, in the entire Western world. You're all liberal. You're all blue pill liberal. You know, Republicans liberal, conservatives liberal, Christians liberal, feminists, Torah men liberal. You guys were born and raised into a liberal, feminist, matriarchal, satanic culture. That's why you can't see it. You think it's normal. This is not normal. This has only happened for 64 years out of 6,000. That's 1%. This is an abomination to the other 99% of humans that have lived as far as time in history. Yahuwah is watching everything going on, and you will, like, he lets everything happen, and then he judges you, punishes you, or rewards you accordingly. There's not going to be anything that you do or don't do by commission or omission that won't be held accountable. Like, this is all more serious than you think, and you're in dereliction of your duty. You as a man have a higher responsibility than women do. As we can see, women, like, they don't study, right? They're not going to police other women. They're not going to build homes and do other construction. They're not going to be in the draft in the military and protect us. You know, they're not going to provide for the whole family. Women, the maximum maturity level of women is 17, but they have to be the most emotionally mature, studied 17-year-old you've ever seen. Not 17-year-olds of today, 17-year-olds of the past. That's their maximum maturity level. You know, so it's on men. So if you don't forcibly fix this, right, and you're not gonna do it by votes. You're not going to do by votes. All you have to do is say no. Action. This is not going to take place in the courtroom. It's not going to take place on the voting ballot. Women are never going to just voluntarily agree to this, right? Like Jezebel's. Jezebel's not going to voluntarily relinquish her evil power, right? You have to stand up to her like Elijah. What happened to Jezebel? She was thrown out of a window and killed. If you don't forcibly stand up to women and say no, and when they attack you like the myriad of freaking zombies, you defend yourself. You're stronger. You're going to win. It will not be changed until all conservative men at minimum 25% of the population, all conservative men get together and say, no, this is wrong. We're changing it. I'm a man, and I'm not going to allow Satanism and wickedness and immorality leading to the fire going to happen on my watch. Nothing will change. Men, grow a backbone, you freaking cowards, and do something about it. So, you'll do.
As we can see, we're already living in a matriarchal system. Like, as of now, we're under the matriarchy. Men are just seen as like kind of a blue-collared slave work, and the women are going into the administrational managerial works because that's where the AC and the screens are, and they're becoming obese. But, you know, to hop off what Joel said, I just wanted to, you know, address this thing I saw. You know, Charlie Kirk was on the whatever app, and all of these women, all of these OnlyFans, you know, 304s were on there, and he said, you know, I feel bad for the women who do abortions because they don't know what they're doing. And all the women looked him dead in the face and they said, what are you talking about? We know exactly what we're doing. And he
Yeah.
says, no, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing if you knew what was happening. And they're like, no, bro, we know and we don't care. And so he's like, he was giving them he was actually worse to them than more critical, like more insulting, if you were, whatever you want to call it. He was insinuating that these women don't have the wherewithal to even understand what they're doing, that they're like animals, that they're like toddlers, that they have no wherewithal about what
Like
they're
they're
doing.
infants,
And
like they're
so
1 years
they
old.
can't
Yeah,
be held accountable. They're just victims of their own stupidity. But we're saying, no, you know what you're doing. You're evil. Stop it. So the West have just been totally corrupted and overcome by the spirit of Ishtar. That's what you need to you see it for what it is, call it out for what it is.
Ishtar was Nimrod's wife, right? The guy that did the Tower Battle.
Yeah. So this spirit, and it's in a lot of religious institutions, it's intentional, it's androgynous, it's been around for a long time, and it's making the women more bolstered and the men more like humble, as we've said before. And you can see this actually, guys, if you look at their body language and like how they speak to each other, you'll see it further in the video. Go on.
Yeah, exactly. Last thing, like, so guys, like as we said in other videos, West women are too weak. Yeah, women are a combination of two things, right? So one, it's like not studied and emotionally unstable because the estrogen, right? Okay, so another word for that, a short word for that is stupid, right? But men just think that women are just all stupid. But there's another component too. Another component of like is evil, right? They know exactly what they're doing. They're using their skill set, which is not physical strength, right? It's the dark arts of sociopathy, manipulation, extortion, blackmail, subterfuge, right? And the thing is that women are actually a lot more evil than and not just dumb. They're a lot more evil than you think. They're I mean, have you not studied history? Obviously you haven't. Look at Cleopatra, right? She was more evil than dumb. She was smart. Look at Jezebel. Was she evil or was she dumb? She was evil, right? Delilah, did she not know what she was doing? She was evil, right? She betrayed like her husband Samson up to torture and death, right?
Nero's mom.
Eve, look at Eve, like,
Yeah.
literally, like she had a perfect environment in the garden, right? She literally had a relationship probably with the spirit of Yahuwah,
No
and as a
excuse.
husband. There wasn't any other women teaching her to be bad. There was no culture teaching her to be bad. It took one bad influence, just one, anything. If women have one bad influence, they're going to choose evil every single time. So she chose evil because Satan presented it to her. She chose Satan over Adam, her husband, and God, Yahuwah. That's exactly what women have been doing for 64 years. They're choosing Satan over their husband, Adam, and God. And when her eyes were open, when she realized what she did, you know what? The first thing she did was she damned Adam with him. Oh, Adam, eat this fruit. I want to be all by myself, get punished alone. I want to be alone. Yeah, I'm going to damn you too. That is exactly female nature. If you don't know that, you don't know women at all. And you should not be in any teaching capacity whatsoever. If you literally don't know how 50% of the population thinks, you should not be in a position of authority or teaching whatsoever. Anything else, man?
And whether or not people might say, well, she could have fought back, and I'm thinking, with a king?
Yeah.
With a king,
So many women get in situations.
She obviously wouldn't have prevailed, but then she would have been guiltless, and then David would have had all the guilt. And that's exactly what Yahuwah tells Moses to the Hebrews in Torah. You absolutely have to fight back. Every woman knows that. If a woman doesn't want to get raped by a homeless guy who's ugly and smelly and poor and yeah, she screams her living lungs out. She's like fighting and scratching and clawing and screaming. You're darn right that's what she should have done.
Just to save their life.
Yeah.
And that doesn't.
Here we get into a fictional scenario, like to cast all blame and sin off of the woman. Totally fictional scenario. David didn't have a gun to her head,
Mean that they were a willing participant.
That's heavy, Morgan.
I'm gonna be a little R-rated. When we first saw this, I was like, how is somebody going to have a gun and also rape somebody? That's just not very practical. Nowadays, maybe if it's a group of people, there are lots of unideal, distasteful, horrendous situations. But one-on-one with a gun and doing the deed, that just doesn't make sense, okay? So this is a hypothetical situation at a time where ammunition wasn't even a thing.
Also too, let's talk about the mechanics of it, since women just love talking about grape more than anything else. So so here's the grape happens way less than what women say. Grape only happens when it's violent resistance and when it's reported by the police. Grape is happening to way less than 1% of women. Don't you dare believe these stats that it's happening. Oh, it's happening significant minority percentages. No, it's not, and you're evil and stupid for saying so. So two things. You can't. Here's the, if a woman is like screaming and resisting, you actually can't logistically have sexual activity with them. You're like, have you guys even had sex or sexual activity before? Like, it's even difficult enough when she's like open and willing, right? There's a lot of prep that has to happen, etc. Right? You have to like spend a lot of time lubricating up so you can even fit in. If she's like violently swinging her legs and her arms and scratching and yelling, you know what you'd have to do to actually grape her? You would have to knock her out physically. He'd have to knock her out so she's lying there lifeless, unconscious, and then do it. That's the only way it can happen. If that doesn't happen, then it was consensual. Then she actually wanted it to happen,
like with the Me Too movement, all of these actresses that went behind that closed door, knowing what they're getting into. You know why they did that? They said, because if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. They were totally consenting to it. It is a distasteful, sinful thing that went down, and they were both parties were guilty of it, but that whole circle of things, like even the secretary knew what was going on. Harvey Weinstein's secretary gave that man pills to do what he did, and the women went in knowing that that's what's going to go down. It was a reputation, an unspoken reputation, and yet they did it anyways because money. Women sin for money and men sin for women, and that's how it's always been.
Yeah, like we're no fans or supporters of any of these, like the people that have been in the news, whatever, like Harvey Weinstein and scumbag, and Jeffrey Epstein. But what you have to realize is that women are consenting to all of this crap, and you're able to consent at a much older age than what we're saying today, et cetera. Like, so what?
Much younger age.
Much younger age. Yeah. Sorry, at a much younger age to what you're saying. Like when I was younger, I absolutely knew what sex was, and I absolutely wanted it. As soon as you go through puberty, you know what sex is and you want it. Like, you can't wait to have sexual activity with an older person. So
how many high schoolers have the fantasy about having an affair with
every
their
one
teacher?
of them. Exactly.
So I had this debate on Facebook.
Yeah, the MILF, the
statement.
DILF, their teacher, every kid has this fantasy. So the way God designed it, real quick, let me go there. So the way God designed it is like, when you're an infant initially, and then once you're a child, you're supposed to be raised to be an adult. Here's how to be a good husband. Here's how to be a good wife. Here's how to work. Here's how to do domestic chores. You're supposed to be raised as an adult, as a child. That's your adolescence, right? When you're an infancy, when you're an infant, obviously you're an infant. You can't do it there. But in your what we would consider childhood, that's considered your adolescence, right? So about like 5 to 10, 5 to 11, you're supposed to be, that's your adolescent according to history in the Bible and nature, and you're supposed to be raised to be an adult at that point. You go through puberty at 11. You know what that means? You have a sex drive. Whoa, wow. No one's talking about that before.
Kids could know they want to change their gender if they didn't know who they were attracted to, or what. It's such a.
Because almost every single person starts masturbating regularly at 11 years old. Okay, so like stop lying and virtue signaling to everyone else. That's the reality on the ground, right? Okay, then in Hebrew culture, your bar mitzvah. Why are you pronounced an adult at 13? Well, because that's true. Like when you're a teenager, you're an adult, a young adult, but you're an adult nonetheless. And they would get married sometime in their teens, right? And just up to debate anywhere from 13 to 19, depending on the culture, right? Everyone got married in their teens. So the fact that we don't consider someone an adult until 18, so 17 and 364 days, and they're adult the next day, it's totally arbitrary. It's not biblical. There's nothing in the Bible about that. That's a man-made arbitrary law, right? You're an adult as a teenager, and all sex happens in your teens. It's totally consensual. They all have a sex drive. In fact, younger people can't wait to actually have sex with someone older.
Joseph and Mary were technically like married in their 16, 15 years old.
The traditional, exactly. We say that Joseph was 16 and Mary was 15, and no one bats an eye. Like no one's like, oh, everyone's like, oh, this is wonderful. Like no one bats an eye, and that's been told every single Christmas, every single year in Christian churches. So this is total bullcrap. So like women want sex, and they practice hypergamy, and they definitely want to have sex with older men. So that's the thing. If a woman is not screaming and resisting, it's consensual. It doesn't matter. Actually, how discriminatory is it for you, and also stupid to think because that you think that person isn't old enough, that doesn't have like agency in their brain, so you're going to determine their agency and not themselves. Now, sure, You know, the older the person is, the more responsible, more emphasis is on them. They should know better. Even if the younger person wants it, they should turn them down for sure. But look how many teachers are having sex with boys that are minors and getting away with it scot-free, like getting fired or a slap on the wrist or something. Like, you know, so like now that the taboo is gone, we are seeing much older women in their 50s having sex with much younger men, their teenage years, 18, 19, early 20s, and everyone's like, woohoo, woohoo. There's no condemnation of it. So this is just a sexist double standard, right? So so like, yeah, exactly. So like yeah, once you go through puberty, you darn well know what sex is. You have a sex drive, and you absolutely know if you want it or don't want it. This is just infantile bullcrap in our culture today, you know.
Now, they're not anywhere on this level that we're talking right now, and, you know, thankfully, you won't have to worry about that for a while. Because it's difficult as a parent. How should we, as parents, teach our children about modesty? So what is your plans? And I know this, I'm not going to hold you to anything. This might change as you progress in your service to Yahweh. But as your children, you know, get 13, 14, 15.
It should be service to her husband, right? Men were made for Yahuwah, women were made for women. Women were made for men, right? So the husband serves Yahuwah, the woman serves her husband, you know, the kids serve the mom, and therefore everyone is serving Yahuwah in that hierarchy.
How are you
That's
going
why
to
he
teach
should be, her husband should be in the video.
Matthew Jansen does not teach biblical gender dynamics. He teaches current modern day satanic feminism, matriarchy, transgenderism. Mark my words, make no mistake.
About this subject? What have you thought about that?
I think there's a culture today of not even just immodesty, but of children trying to be more mature than they are.
That's exactly the opposite of what's true. Disney, since 1940s, we've been delaying childhood in recent Western times, right? So childhood can literally be delayed up to 26 years old. Why do I say that? Well, Obamacare, you can be on your parents' plan until you're 26. If you decide to get your PhD or your MD, you could be in school, college, until you're 26 years old. That's why I say that, 8 years of college. So actually, we have delayed childhood. Delayed. Everyone thinks that high schoolers, teenagers are children, right? You know, you can at 18 years old, you can be you can go in the military and you can die for your country, right? But in college, they still think that college kids are kids, right? And so, and then, you know, like so we have delayed childhood. You should be a full-grown adult, like you know, mentally, maturely, and emotionally in your teenage years. And if you were raised to be that way, you would. So we actually have delayed childhood, and it's a bad thing. We need to teach children and adolescents to be adults, you know, at an earlier age. And that's why we see a lot of the problems that we're seeing.
The only thing that's increased in our culture is perversion. Perversion, they're synonymizing perversions with adultness. And that's why they're demonizing sex, where it should be in a healthy context. But yeah, being an adult is a good thing. We should encourage children to become adult, just not perverse adults. Okay.
Exactly. We should be encouraging children and adolescents to get married and have a spouse in their teenage years, just like everyone did throughout all of history and every continent, regardless of time, culture, country, belief. You know, like, so that way they can have sex in a healthy context. Not, oh, you know what? You should probably never get married. You should probably wait till you're 30 or 40 and just go ahead and have sex with everyone. Yeah, that's fine. You know, that's totally fine. Just have sex with everyone. It's getting married is what you should be worried about. Yeah, don't do that till you're 40, you know.
I just wanted to say earlier that I got into an exchange where I was saying that, you know, whatever the law of man in the United States that is totally changeable is not like the law of Yahuwah that is unchangeable. It's entwined in nature. But you know what, I don't know what happens from the day your last day of being 17-year-old, the last day you turn 18, that suddenly makes you cognizant of all sorts of stuff that you weren't aware of the day before. Like Pearly Things made a post. She said all the women like lost their ish. You know, she said a 16-year-old more attractive than a 26-year-old, right? And I said, and women are like, right? But I said, how many girls in your high school did you know that had a crush on a celebrity, Jason Momoa, whatever his name is, you know, their teacher, some musician, they are 16 and they have a crush on somebody's way older than. How many college students do you know have a crush on their professor? So that translates into high school. And the women said, oh, it's fine if the girl is attracted and consenting towards that man, but it's not okay if that man is reciprocating in that exchange. So clearly we know teachers, students, are not, don't twist it. But the thing is, this is the law of nature. This is how nature works. You can write your way around it on a piece of paper, but eventually that paper can be shredded up and disappear, and the laws of nature are going to stay. And that's just nature. A guy said, oh, my 15-year-old daughter is kissing her. She's so sweet. I can't believe my little girl. She has a boyfriend, and I'm going to shoot him if he tries anything on her. I'm like, bro, she's an adult. She should be getting married to that guy, not telling him that you're going to shoot him. Like, grow up, people. You trying to shelter your children into this bubble of perpetual childishness, Disney-like, I know you love your little girl and she's precious and everything, but you are doing her a disservice, and you're doing your son a disservice by trying to shelter them in childishness. That's all I have to say about it.
Why does anyone wear ponchos if they never actually work? All you need is
Girls and boys trying to look much older, and that is very dangerous in today's world with predators and people, the internet, social media. There's more and more pressure on children to be immodest and do certain things to keep up with other people, or messages, all things like that. And I know it isn't modesty per se, but I think one part of that is not letting my children be on a social media platform at a young age. Because you can even look at statistics, the suicide rates, especially in teen girls, are so high in the past 10 years.
Abomination. Right there. The suicide rates in America are 50,000 per year. And 40,000 of those, 80% of the suicides are by men, mostly white middle-aged men. Oh, oh my gosh, everyone drop the presses because 1% of the suicide rate's teenage girls, but who gives a crap if 80% are middle-aged white men? That's who is committing suicide, because that's how disenfranchised they have been in the society. That's how you can tell who's oppressed or not. Who literally thinks that it's better to die than to live in the society because they're so disenfranchised? Like this couple, this deserves the strongest rebuke right here. The strongest rebuke. They're getting it.
Look like everybody else. They do all those filters on Instagram where it changes the shape of.
I do agree. Social media has ruined women at all. So yeah, absolutely. Don't let your girls be on social media. 100%. Ideally, yeah, especially women. Women use social media to just be a prostitute. Like, that's just their go-to. Men don't do that. Men don't do that at all. They go on there to talk about video games or exchange ideas about politics and religion. Like, women just I'm naked. Everyone look at me. Woohoo! Women just love being whores. 100%. Just it's just their go-to play. So yeah, I mean, we're all for not being on social media. For girls. And honestly, tell you the truth, no women should be on social media. I should tell you the truth. I'm like Leora is, but that's because she's under entirely, my authority and supervision, and we have a ministry together, and I know her passwords and everything, and so she's not posting naked pictures, and it's all about ministry. So
Your face. Yeah. And it's making people want all kinds of plastic surgery. You feel insecure. You see somebody that's life looks picture perfect because they're choosing to post just these things, and you want to look like them. You want to dress like them. So I think part of that is not completely sheltering your children off from the world, but not giving them that platform where they're going to compare themselves so much to somebody else. And then just teaching them, we are children of Yahweh. We're to be set apart. We're doing this out of not of shame, not because your body is shameful or any part of your body is shameful, but because we're loving Yahweh, and we're keeping parts of ourselves for him and for our future spouse if we do happen to get married.
Sure, yeah. So that's another thing, and I know that's not really what our topic's about today, but
Okay, real quick. So in Adam and Eve, you know, like when they ate from the fruit, they knew they were naked. Literally, there was no one there to see them. The first thing they did was make clothes out of fig leaves. So obviously, there's something innately, even when no one's around, there's no one to socially condition you, social construct, to show that being naked is shameful, right? Like, you know, now if you're at the privacy of your own home and you're with your spouse, like it's a wonderful thing. But in any other context or outside of a shower, you know, yeah, it is. Adam and Eve knew that immediately, you know, with no social construct at all, you know. More feminist
Nobody's
propaganda.
teaching women that it's shameful to have a female body. If anything, we're like not shaming.
We
them.
glorify
We have,
it,
like,
exactly.
these women, they're
Wo-
like, "Yeah,
Women's
get
bodies
off."
are an idol in our country. We see the female form and everyone worships it, 100% worship. What do you think the sex industry is? It's worship of the female form. It's idolatry. It's 100% goddess worship.
Is sometimes an idol in churches.
Marriage is an idol.
Marriage is an idol. Yeah, you're right. Being single is better. Being single and lonely and unfulfilled and sexually immoral is an idol. This is freaking
Marriage is
crazy.
a covenant.
What a
and literally
wackadoodle.
Yeah. Like the first story was about a married couple. Like women should not exist outside the, well, I don't mean exist, but women, it's not healthy for women to exist outside the confines of a nuclear family and then a marriage. So nobody is idolizing like, I don't even understand what this
Yahuwah did not design women to not be married. There has never been a time in all of history where there were single women, right? Like when Eve came on the scene, Adam was right there. They were married. The first woman, like men can be single and alone. It talks about this in scripture, the Messiah in Matthew 19:12, and also like in Paul, 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Men can be single, some, you know, a very small percentage, but women cannot. They literally can't out of necessity, as far as the physical strength and in order like to survive. And they also can't emotionally either. They're complete wackadoodles, etc. So the only women that were single in all of history is if they were married their whole life and their husband died early, of like old age or of war, and it was a tragedy. They're like, oh, that poor widow. She lived for a few more years and then she died. So only widows who were married, who no one else would marry at that age because they're so old and they'd already been with that man for a long time that no one would have, were single. There was no such thing as single women in the past. And if they were, the only women that were single were those that chose to be prostitutes, right? Even the concubines weren't single. They were partnered up with a married man, you know, like that chose to be prostitutes. And at that point, no one would marry them. So women being single has never been by choice, right? Men being single is by choice, but not usually, but it's never the woman's choice to be single. Absolutely not. Like, so she's single when she's younger, in her teens, 20s, and early 30s. She's playing the field. She's hooking up. Like, you know, she's being a whore. Like, she's super promiscuous. Like, you know, no woman is single by choice at the very latest by the age of 30s, because no man will have them because they're insufferable. They don't have the skills to be a wife. Here's the thing, women. Here's the thing. If you want to get married, you got to be a woman from the 50s, or you're not getting married. So you can rant and rave against it all you want, but that's what wife material is. All women throughout all of history were like women in the 50s. If you refuse to be that and you want to be like a woman from the 60s and 70s and 2020s, that's fine. You ain't getting married. So enjoy making all the money by yourself. Enjoy doing all the housework by yourself. Enjoy doing construction by yourself. Enjoy living and dying alone, because that's what's going to happen. You know, like,
when they say I'm single by choice, that's like me.
Lie.
Yeah.
Lie.
That's overcompensation.
Gaslighting.
It's like dies from cringe. Me dies from cringe.
That's like
overcompensation.
That's like saying that a guy's a virgin by choice his whole life, right? The 40-year-old virgin. No guy by a certain age is a virgin by choice, right? It's an incel. He's involuntarily celibate. And no woman is single by choice. No man wants them. They can't convince a single man out of 4 billion to marry him because they're so bad on the inside, in their brain, their heart. They're such a bad woman. It's because they're evil on the inside. They're so evil. It's not because they're too ugly or too fat, blah blah blah. They didn't get lucky, soulmates. No, it's because they're so evil on the inside, their brain, their heart, that every man realizes that his life's going to be ruined, right? No man wants to tango with that level of evil. And unfortunately, actually, too many men do actually marry evil women, thinking that they don't have a choice and they settle. But that's the reason. It's because women today are evil, and like wife material is 1950s. So guys look at all women through two lenses, right? You're either wife material, which means like you're 1950s, or you're a whore. So you pick what category you want to be. And whores are only good for sex, for hookups, right? They don't get married. So you take your pick which one you want to be. Everyone's known this for all of time. Like, we're all virtue signaling, acting like we don't know, etc. Guys aren't supposed to say this, but this is exactly the truth.
You know, and lastly, you know, women were designed to help men. I don't understand in what world, like, they think they can help men being outside of marriage, like, they can't, you can't.
They're
So
offended by the idea. They don't
everybody
think
knows that a man cannot be pleasing to Yahuwah unless he is good to women and children. Nowadays it's at large, but for all of history, it's been your wife and your children doing right by them. But there's no standard on women to do right by men, just by children, and even now they're not doing that, of course, but men are just like totally on the back burner, like way back there, right? And so
No, not at all.
they're not,
They view the
there's
man.
no expectation
Yeah.
on women to be pleasing to Yahuwah by being pleasing to your husband, by being a helpmate to him. So they are taking women out of the confines of male and female and saying, oh no, they're a separate entity, they don't need that. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And that perspective is simply unbiblical.
Yeah, like we said on Western Men Are Too Weak, the thing is like women aren't capable of hardly anything, right? They're capable of two things. They're capable of nurturing and loving and supporting and being the assistant to their husband, and they're capable of taking care of little children, right? 0 to 4. And as men are the better parents from 5 on out, like we literally since 1960, the stats have proved that everyone's been raised by women only in our society, from their mom to teachers, and people are more wicked than ever. That's because they had a mom. Women are bad parents, right? They don't teach them knowledge, they don't teach them rules, they don't teach them morality. They teach them you do whatever you feel. If that's sex work, then that's what it means. If that's committing a crime, that's what it means. Men are better parents. The stats are there to show that 75% of people in jail that committed a felony, a violent crime, or any crime were raised by a single mom only. So like like men are by far the better parents. We've been lied to this for the last 64 years, and it's totally evil. But you can't be a good woman without a husband. Here's the thing: if you don't have a husband and submit to him, you're going to Hades and Sheol. But you have to do what God says. Like you said, the criteria for salvation. It's not like you just believe in Jesus and you're saved. You're baptized in water and you're saved. No, the message of the Bible, the gospel, is Genesis to Revelation. No, it's not just Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The gospel is primarily actually Genesis to Deuteronomy, right? That's actually the word of God, and the rest is history and commentary on that. So the gospel is Genesis through Deuteronomy through Revelation, and the criteria for salvation is 3 things. Number 1, you have to know who God is. You can't be saved, you don't know who God is, and that's the Father alone. Number 2, you have to do what he says. Like, it's so evil that Christians don't think you actually have to do what he says. You do. Read the book, and what does he say? He says patriarchy and Torah. Patriarchy and Torah, patriarchy and Torah. There were no single women in the Bible. And then 3, you have to have a lamb and a high priest, just like they had from the beginning. So Christians only doing one of the things. If you don't do these other 2, you're not saved. So in doing what God tells you to do, it's patriarchy and Torah. You can't just somehow sidestep patriarchy. So if you're a woman, the whole reason for your creation, like Eve, was to have a man who benefits you so much more than you do him, and do him good and obey him all the days of his life, right? Proverbs 31:10. We list 43 verses, and there's more of them on Lior's video, Western Women Through God's Eyes. It's non-optional. You have to have a husband and obey him. You don't, you're a bad woman, you're evil, you're a daughter of Satan, you go to hell. Make no mistake, case closed. I know you never heard that before, but that's because everyone is a coward and no one studied enough, and everyone's too afraid to address women. They're too cowardly to address little girls, little evil girls. Well, guess what? This is the one channel where you're going to get the truth, whether you have a man who's not afraid of little girls. You guys need to join me. You guys are going to continually, right now we have male slavery. We have total matriarchy where men are slaves to women. Oh yeah, man, you're good for the construction. You're good for dying and the police, and also for the military and the home invader. And then you submit to me in the home. You submit to the woman. Total slaves. Man, you are a slave. If that doesn't offend you, you are not a man. You have no brain. You have no heart. You have no balls. Be a man. Stop being a slave.
Look down on younger people that may choose not to get married. It's like, when are you going to get married? Especially if you're like 20 or 25. When are you going to get married, young man or young woman? I'm praying the Lord sends you somebody, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to get married. You're married. You got married at a fairly young age. I got married at a really young age. You're my first child. But I find in Scripture that it looks like, to me, if anything, that it can be a higher spiritual calling to remain single.
Only for the men, only for the men, only for the prophets or the disciples, not for women. Like, women weren't designed to live alone. Literally, without men, there's so many different things, but like they're not even able to ascertain clean water. So without men, women die in a matter of days because they can't ascertain clean water, and that's shown in Naked and Afraid. Not to mention make a shelter because they have 1/17 the hand strength. They can't defend themselves from other women or other men, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And be celibate.
Yes.
You see it that way as well?
Yes, I do, and there's people who, it makes a lot of people feel less than in the church, because there are people who do not want to get married, and then there are people who just never.
That's not true. There isn't anyone that doesn't want to get married. Another lie. Awesome. We got a girl lying to us. What else is new?
They want to get married and never are able to find anybody, and it makes them feel as if they're less than when the church only.
That's because of hypergamy. So like the reason why everyone hasn't got why one wouldn't get married is because you didn't settle. Like watch Dating for more than that. That's how you get married. It's literally called settling down. Until you settle, you won't be married. What a joke. It's so narcissistic to think that God, predestined before the foundation of the world, your soulmate. Doesn't say that anywhere in scripture, or that like you would get everything you want at all times the rest of your life because I don't know, it feels good. That's narcissistic. That's not how it works. If everyone settled, everyone would get married. It's such an abominable teaching that girls are teaching. Don't settle. They want because men have rejected them for being so evil on the inside. They want all women to be single and miserable with them. They don't want to see other women happily married and them being the only one that missed out. So, and it's not men being too picky. It's women being too picky. They're trying to, like, women are lower than they've ever been before. They're like, women have been horrible wives since 1960. Men have stayed the same, 1950s, men for the entire freaking time because women enforce it. So it's not that men won't settle. Men settle like crazy. Oh, you got 100 partners, no problem. Oh, you're evil, no problem. You won't submit to me, no problem. You don't want to make any money, no problem. You don't do domestic chores, no problem. You won't have sex with me, no problem. You're obese, no problem. Oh, I'll still marry you. It's women. They're like, I'm obese and I don't make any money and I'm evil, but I want to marry Jason Momoa. I want to marry Josh Hartnett. I want to marry Channing Tatum. I want to marry Brad Pitt. Yeah. And I won't get married until that time. Again, that's why patriarchy necessarily, like, girls are effing idiots, right? They're super selfish. They're narcissistic. They're sexist. They're morons. And they've chosen to be evil with the agency that they have. That's why patriarchy is so necessary.
Talks about perfectness in the form of marriage. Or you've heard the phrase season of singleness. That's taught to women so much. You're in a season of singleness and how to get through this season. And sometimes you never find anybody, and that's okay. That doesn't make you any less than.
If a woman hasn't found anyone, that's because she's turned down dozens, hundreds, thousands of nice guys that she just thought weren't good enough. I'm so sick and tired of this propaganda. That's the reason. Watch our gender dynamics on that.
Listening to the view, season of singleness. Okay.
Exactly.
I feel like it's the same with women who may not be able to have children. Like the church teaches, you're supposed to live this way, then you get married, and this is how you raise your children. And especially for women, like, this is your purpose. Your purpose is to be a housewife and a mother.
That is your 100% purpose. Your purpose is a man. It's to be a wife to a man. Now, obviously, we have a whole video on babies. That's not your purpose. Only if the man consents to it, then you can have some. Only as many as he says that he can financially provide for, as well as time to provide for. But no, woman's purpose is her husband. That was the whole reason why God created Eve in the first place.
And that's your purpose. And it's really, really damaging for the women who are not able to have children or cannot find.
Okay, now we're talking about less than 1%. Cool.
And besides,
your purpose isn't babies. Your purpose is your husband.
not choosing to deny a husband is an overt choice that you make. Not being able to conceive isn't something that you are per se in control of. So these are false dichotomies.
Good one.
Find somebody to marry them. And even for people who are born with homosexual tendencies.
Oh, so now homosexuality is a biological trait. Matthew Jansen raised his daughter to think that homosexuality is a biological trait. There is absolutely no evidence for that. They've been trying to get evidence for that since I was little in 2000. There is absolutely no evidence for that at all, right? There is no combination of the DNA strands of A, T, and CG that makes you gay. What if we can do it? And then bisexuality just blows that whole thing out of the water. Almost every single person that they call gay is really bisexual. They've had sex with both parties, right? The reason I thought this was an oversimplification when my mom first told me way back in the 90s, but it's entirely true. After interviewing countless gay people and being friends with countless gay people, they all have the same story. They're all on like the same script too. Like, oh, because did you guys know through all of history, homosexuality has been a thing through all of history, right? but no one ever thought they'd get married over it, right? They knew it was good for society to get married and have kids, but they just did it as like a sinful carnal pleasure, right? Like with the Greeks, etc. So nobody said that homosexuality was a biological trait until 2000. And from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, they all said, hey, this is our sexual preference. We're engaging this because we want to, right? And so then it could be criticized by conservatives. But then when they realized that wasn't working, the reason, here's the thing, here's one. So they didn't just want to do it without any legal punishment, because they had that for forever, right? Since after the 50s. Since the 60s, there's been no legal punishment for having for being a homosexual, et cetera, for any kind of sexual depravity. It's so crazy how we punish some sexual depravity but not others, right? So if you were to have sexual activity with someone that's 17 consensually, that's a crime, statutory rape. But then if you were to have sex in an orgy with a bunch of people of the same gender, and if they were married, etc., oh, that's fine. Oh, that's totally fine. Have adulterous orgies, all totally good. So it's bullcrap. We do legislate some morality, but not others, and it's totally arbitrary and it's wrong. That should change. So but okay, yeah. So homosexuality, right? So how it actually happens mostly is it's usually two reasons. Number one, an older person introduces a younger person. And it's usually almost always a minor, right? And by that time, in your first sex, you're very elastic sexually, right? You can actually get yourself into anything if you actually nurture and develop it for a while, but especially your first sexual encounter, especially when you're younger towards puberty as a teenager. So if they have a homosexual encounter when they're younger, in middle school or high school, in their teens, and from then on out, they carry that same sex attraction because they're elastic. They've been imprinted for the rest of their life, typically, right? But it's all self-control. You can choose to have sex with anyone you want, or not to have sex at all. You can choose to be a virgin for life. You can choose to have sex with one woman or many women as you want in your life, 2 women at a time. You can choose to have sex with someone of the same gender. Like it's all a choice. So it's such a joke. And so, and here's the thing too, is like wanting to do something, a little rabbit trail, is not justification for being allowed to do it. Guys, do you not realize, like, there are pedophiles out there that want to have sex with minors between 0 and 10 years old? Should we let them do that because they want to do that? That's actually the new frontier of the rainbow movement. So should we allow pedophiles to be pedophiles? Well, let's say it's consensual with the children too, just because they want to. Exactly. Now, if you're a child, you should not be given sexual agency, etc. We can debate the age, but definitely not 0 to 10. That's for sure. So there are pedophiles out there. Should we allow them to do that because it's consensual and because they genuinely are attracted to minors? We would say absolutely effing not. It's the exact same thing with homosexuality. So great. So Matthew Jansen and his daughter are peddling the leftist message. But so anyway, and then over time, also homosexuality can be caused by having tremendous failure with the opposite gender. So you're like, you know what? I want to be loved and have some sex rather than not be loved and have no sex. So that's another reason why both men and women choose homosexuality. That's the second reason. The first reason is the biggest reason. And of course, now there's porn out, so people can condition themselves to be into that where they wouldn't have had that before.
Who want to live a life of celibacy, and they do not want to get married because
oh yeah, right. So
most unmarried women are not virgins.
Yeah, exactly.
At all. They're not
Exactly.
They're not virgins for life. They're not celibates like nuns, which we would argue is an unnatural actually practice. Nuns are not a natural phenomenon. So no unmarried women are, unless they are nasty or there's something wrong with their brain, are virgins.
Typically,
and the level of autism that we see now did not exist for all of history. We didn't just have mentally handicapped people just roaming around everywhere. This is a new phenomenon.
Yeah, exactly. Guys don't have the hangups. We talk about this in dating. I would say like less than 1% of women that are single are virgins. So this whole thing is a false narrative. For women, like even if they are fat and if they're obese and ugly, like they can still find some desperate guy to have sex with. They go up to a guy and say, hey, you want to have sex? So they want to feel desirable. And the guy's like, okay, because guys don't have hangups about it. They don't carry with them the rest of their life. There's nothing that happens like physically, in a man's body from the woman that they're attached to that woman for life. So they don't have any hangups. It can just be a secret or whatever. A woman she only wants to have sex with guys that she wants to marry, right? They got to be tall, they got to be hot, they got to be rich, they got to be smooth, etc. But not so the other way around. So oh, and then the homosexuality thing. So they wanted a couple things. They wanted like they wanted tax benefits, right? They wanted tax benefits, and they wanted to force the rest of the population to forcibly, against their will, unconsensually recognize that what they were doing was legitimate and moral and ethical and sanctioned by the government as legitimate. So against their religious convictions, against their moral convictions, against all of the historical convictions. That's what they wanted. This was a very aggressive, evil movement. Not for a second think that it's not. And the crazy thing is too, like they always feature like the old cute gay couple that's been together forever. That almost never happens, right? Like actually, like homosexuals are actually they're even more promiscuous than the straight folks, and they almost never stay together, and they're super shallow and ditzy, and they're hooking up with everybody, guys and girls. And actually, it's the lesbian couples that have the highest case of domestic violence, and like male homosexuals, gay guys, like their promiscuity and adultery is off the charts. They almost never stay together. They're just hooking up continually because of the testosterone. The women, the estrogen causes them to be abusive, right? Emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, in every single way. Exactly. Verbally, every single way.
We don't ascribe to all of these different versions of abuse, but domestic violence, when a cop gets called, it's like screaming that disturbs the peace. Of course, like you can hear it down the block screaming, or violence. And yeah, they're shameless about it.
They cannot marry somebody that they're going to love in that way.
Love is a choice. It's not
harmful
feeling
for them, thinking that that is the only way that you're going to be accepted.
Hello, my name is Kevin Rogers. I'm one of the sock designer.
Yeah, love is a choice. You choose to love them. Arranged marriages are some of the most long-lasting marriages for all of history, because they have come to love each other, even though it's not something that they didn't lust after each other initially, but they felt an obligation to that person and cared about that person and wanted to do good by that person all the days of their life. That's what love is. Not like, oh, he doesn't like turn me on. That's even after you're married, even though you might get that initial turn on, after a while it kind of fizzles out. You have to do stuff to like make it more spicy or whatever. Like you have to work at it. It's not like an innate ethereal feeling that just overcomes you. This is GAY. Okay, I'm just gonna say that.
Hey, sweetie, real quick, just to prove this point, because this might be the only video that they watch, and they never get it. The point. Would you want to briefly share, like your experience, like like dating with guys and not working out, wanting to get married but not being able to, and then also your 5-year relationship, real quick, and then end it here, just to show, like, to prove this point we're talking about.
I mean,
she's talking about women want to be single, and she says that like that all gays are born with it, and then your story is the typical story, completely disproves that. You want to say it real quick?
Sure.
So or I can say it for you if you don't know what.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll just be long-winded. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So this is to help you folks. Like, I'm not trying to embarrass Lior. She's like totally turned around, and repented, and feels bad about it. So I don't make her feel bad about it anymore. There's no point. It's in the past. Yahuwah forgave her. But this is a teaching point for all of you guys. We talked about this in game, etc. Okay, so Lior wanted to get married, but none of the guys she was with wanted to get married to her. She was dating older guys, and then she was dating leftist guys, and they just viewed her as like an alternative hookup. They didn't view her as wife material, because that's not how she was presenting herself. And I told this in hindsight. She's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense in hindsight. So anyway, after like trying and it failing with a lot of different guys, and even some guys that she had some relationships with, she ended up it was kind of like a last resort. It wasn't her first choice. It was like, oh, I guess this is better than nothing. She ended up getting in a relationship with an older woman for 5 years, and so it was with a woman, and like she wasn't born that way. She didn't exclusively had it. It was only this one time or whatever. She engaged in that kind of activity during that time, and then that came to an end, and I came after that. So like,
I also want to add that I was raised as an ally from a very young age up to middle school. So if I was not raised to be an ally is just kind of like it's like a lane that they're trying to
grooming
you.
Yeah.
The like trying to welcome you as part of the crowd, even then you're not that. And so eventually, after you like, Boston is very rainbow. I can't even describe how rainbow it is, like extremely much so. So anyway, so being an ally is them welcoming you into the fold without actually having to do it. So then later on in life, you rationalize, you normalize this, like it wasn't a natural inclination. It was actually a byproduct of lack of success with other men.
It was a social construct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. That last point that you just said, exactly. It's a byproduct of not presenting yourself as a 50s wife and therefore not having success with the men. The men didn't marry her because she wasn't presenting herself or acting like wife material, right? So like everything Lior knows, I taught her from scratch when we first started meeting, and she had long hair by that point. So like I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a heck of an uphill battle. But like she was such a receptive, wonderful student. We hit the ground running, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, well.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some teaching, but wow, this is great. She's a willing student, a willing participant, so I don't have to fight it, 24/7. And so she finally, after experiencing everything the hard way, was like, okay, let's do it the right way from now on. So guys, you're gonna have to do this with women, or you're not gonna get a good woman. Anything else?
I don't know how many days it was up, and I've been wanting to do this video with you since his video came out, but it's just, we both have busy lives, right? We don't know.
Yeah, so when the phenomenon of growing rainbowness, as we'll call it, across the country is really like people don't really resort to that, like unless the women are so insufferable, which they have become at alarming rates. It's just like a wave, guys don't want to deal with them at all, so they're like, why should I'll just be gay since it's okay, right? And then also for women, it's a byproduct of being you're just so undesirable to the opposite sex that's your next resort. It's not you're not born with it. It's not something somebody wants to do. It's when you're so unsuccessful with the opposite gender that you're just looking to be welcome. Take Dylan Mulvaney, for example. Even though Dylan Mulvaney is extremely popular with the ladies, he is still having no intimacy, no affection, nothing like that on a meaningful level. So this is he's just gonna crash and burn. But he was doing that in hopes of attaining that. He was like, first I'm gay, then I'm straight, then I'm trans, now I'm a trans straight. Anything so someone will love me, and that's the phenomenon.
Absolutely. And one last insight to this whole thing. Okay, guys, if homosexuality was a biological trait, it would have died out a long time ago, because you can't pass it on to your kids because, oh, they're just so gay, they just can't actually have kids, right? Then it would have died out if it was a biological trait. So all right, so they know that it's not a biological trait, or else it wouldn't exist anymore. It would have died out. And that's why they're pushing it so hard in our culture. That's why it's rainbow 24/7. Now, here's what they're doing. Remember what I just said? An older rainbow person actually tries to convert and groom a younger child, an adolescent, a teenager who's straight. They groom them, they molest them, they grape them, right? Like like trusting the older person. And they might feel wrong at first, and then then it happens, and yeah, exactly. They molest them, exactly.
It's just like raising somebody in a certain way.
Literally, your children in preschool are being groomed to be sodomites, like in the rainbow culture of every variety, right? The sodomite's the perfect term because there's all kinds of different ways to do sodomy, right? So that's why they are grooming your kids, specifically grooming your kids, because they have to get new recruits, because it's not a biological trait and they can't pass it on through kids. So they have to have new childish recruits before they're old enough to discern that this is wrong, right? And our whole society has accepted it now. So that's why they're so hell-bent on going after your kids. They're socially conditioning and grooming and molesting your kids. The rainbow people are PDF files, right? I'm gonna say the term from now on. PDF files, you get it? They're all PDF files, right? The stats are there. Almost every single person, every single rainbow person I've talked to that is engaged in rainbow activity, they started having rainbow activity as a young person, as a teenager. In fact, my longest relationship before Lior, with 7.5 years with a woman, she started when she was 11 years old, and I'll just leave it at that. It happens in middle school and high school. Like conservative parents are so distasteful. They don't want to think about how it happens. This is how it happens. And you're just letting it happen. Conservatives, you lost the culture war.
It's ideological too. You don't have to it doesn't, like, the molestation is a big part of it for sure, but it's also ideological. It's just like overcoming the child ideologically, so it's in the forefront of their mind. Who is not on the forefront of their mind, that's what they're putting on the forefront of their mind.
Conservatives, if you're not actively teaching the truth and morality every day, all day, your whole life, you know what's going to happen? There's going to be a power vacuum, and then Satan comes in and he gets his people. Who's that? The left, women, and he's going to turn your kids to be evil, matriarchal, rainbow, communists. So like, you've lost. You have to get involved. I understand. We want to be chill. We want to be independent. We want to just mind our own little life, our own little family, our own little bubble, our own little work, and have our little vacations and act like it's not happening. If they're going to come for you. Are you freaking kidding me? like how look at the progression, because you have had the independent, chill, like step back. Oh, I'm just going to wait it out. I'm just going to let it return to normal. I'll just wait the next 4 years and vote, and that's all I can do. Because you are not actively involved like the left is in academia, in government, in media, in social media, in church. You're not actively involved in the culture at all. Satan has taken over through women. He's groomed your kids to be rainbow communists, and you're not doing anything about it. You're a total failure. You know, if you have kids, you have a much higher responsibility than normal someone that doesn't have kids. And the thing is, at large, is men, even if you're not married, it's just the way it is. Women are half the population. You have a responsibility to teach, correct, discipline, and lead women in the way that they should go. Women are your children, even if you're not married. Right now, the only, like, when you get married, your wife is your eldest daughter, so that's your primary one. But you should also be doing your best to help them at large too. And if they were all married, then they'd all have their own dad, their own husband, right? And this wouldn't be a problem. But now it's like at least 50% or more, like 3/4 of people are single, and so you got to work out. Now you're behind the 8 ball. Okay.
Yeah. Also, Vivek Ramaswamy made a great point about you're not being born with it. He's like, if you're born with it, it's not like a fluid thing that changes over time, and then you're suddenly 60 years old, like Bruce Jenner, like, oh, you know.
If Bruce Jenner, Bruce Jenner could have lived his life as a man, his gender he was born with, for 65 years. I'm pretty sure he could squeak out a couple more years.
Like, he probably became
Oh my gosh.
appropriated women because everyone around him was like having all the attention put on
Women
them.
get all the
The
privilege.
Kardashians
Why not
had the
partake in
TV
it?
show,
Yeah.
the fashion, the makeup, everything was
Yeah.
like they were getting all this attention, and he was just
They
like
treated-
chucked to the
They
wilderness. He's
treated
like, you know
Bruce
what?
Jenner like shit because he was a man. Exactly. You know what the Kardashians did to Bruce? Bam! Every day abused him. They abused that man to the opposite gender. Women are abusive today. Women have been abusing men for 64 years. That's the exact word. That's her favorite word. Women are abusing men. What women are doing is abusing men. Women have been abusing their husbands and their sons since 1960 by refusing to be a good woman, a godly woman, a conservative woman, by refusing to do the gender role, by refusing to obey their husband, by refusing to be a humble woman, right? Not be tyrannical, but be benevolent with their children, by not staying married to their man, by being an absolute whore out on the market, right? By doing nothing but women have decided to hate men since at least 1960. It's so funny. Like, if you say that you hate women, you're like, oh my God. No one can say that they hate women. By the way, they deserve it. They deserve to be hated based on what they've done. Are you kidding me? But you can't say. But if a woman says she hates men, like, of course we hate men. Of course, all women have been taught that it's perfectly socially acceptable to hate men since 1960 for 64 years, and all women are like, oh yeah, that's fine, me too. And all the guys are like, yeah, I understand, girl. All the guys are like, I totally get how you feel. I hate us too. So it's totally fine to hate men, but if there's any actually backlash and self-defense and hate towards women, you're like, oh, you can't do that. You're damn right you can. You can, and you better start doing it until things get to return to normal.
They literally
You should hate bad people. You should hate bad people. You should hate bad women. You should only love good women. You should only love good women. You should hate bad women. Just like we hate bad men, right? You should hate bad women. And guess what? They're almost all bad today. So that's why we're trying to change that.
On our Sabbath day, so before our service, I was a little put back by his comment on social media. I did make a comment on
A little
his
put back.
As a little putback. You see how feminine Matthew Jansen is? This is not the way a man should be. He's wearing a freaking dress. He has his legs crossed. You can't sit comfortably with your legs crossed as a man. You know what? You know what happens if you have your legs crossed? That means you don't have a package. I'm just saying that is feminine. Women sit with their legs crossed, so you can't see their panties when they're wearing a short skirt, or it's comfortable for them. They don't have something between their legs, and they have wider hips. It's not comfortable for a man to cross his legs with narrow hips and balls and a penis. So that's just weird. Look how like freaking limp-wristed he is. Look how feminine he is. He's literally more feminine than his daughter. It's not okay to be feminine as a man and soft as a man and weak as a man. You should be strong, confident, studied. Women are supposed to be soft, humble, obedient, nurturing, supportive, loving. All the traits that women should have, men have today. It's an abomination in the sight of Yahuwah. It will not go unlooked or unpunished. And here's the thing. Women have all of they're trying to appropriate men. Women have appropriated men since 1960. They're trying to have all of it's so funny. Women have like appropriated toxic masculinity, but have given none of the benefits of benevolent masculinity, right? Women are not protecting men. That's benevolent masculinity. Women are not providing for men. That's benevolent masculinity. right? Women aren't being logical, benevolent masculinity. Women aren't studying and teaching men the truth, benevolent masculinity. They're not being emotionally stable, benevolent masculinity.
Post and say, I believe that you used wisdom by removing the video, and I respect you for removing it. But I felt like the comment, he said something along the lines of, it was a joke. People didn't take it that way. Family thought it was funny. I've taken your comments to heart. I don't want anything to get in the way of me spreading joy and doing work for the kingdom. It just kind of came across as though he didn't really feel like he had done anything wrong with making a video. Was that kind of the vibe you got?
And when I listened to it, I knew it was a joke. I got that. But other people will use it as not a joke. And just because I've noticed lately people have a thing that it's okay to be offensive. Like, you don't need to be offended by everything. It's okay. Like, don't be sensitive. But in the Bible, we're taught to be kind-hearted and slow to speak and not to cause anger in people. We're not just supposed to say what we ever we want and say.
Be passive.
Okay, so she's once again, she's preaching the leftist message. You know, the sin is offending people. And what's offensive? Anything that convicts them that's true. That's the exact opposite of the biblical message. You know how offensive Joshua the Messiah was? He was so offensive simply by teaching the truth that they tortured and killed him. And they did that with the rest of the disciples too. And guess what? They hated the prophets like Jeremiah. The people hated him for speaking the truth, right? Jezebel and Ahab hated Elijah for speaking the truth and tried to kill him, right? The truth is always offensive. If you don't come across as offensive to people, that's because you're a Satanist on Satan's side and he controls the world, the majority of the culture. And like, she's literally teaching the leftist message. This is so unbiblical. I'm so glad we're finally getting around to calling this out. This is what I wanted to do since I was younger. You know?
Don't get offended by it. And so many people.
If you're offended, that's a you problem.
Yep.
If your feelings are hurt or something, if you get triggered, your triggers are your responsibility. Joel triggers.
I'm offended
that
every
out of
single
me.
day. I'm offended by our culture and women and the left and by Satan and by Christians being a part of a false religion, taking the Lord's name in vain. Every single day of my life. Does anyone give a rat's ass to? No, and neither should you about women of the left. Grow a backbone, conservatives. You are ballless. Grow some freaking balls. I have to get graphic to realize to show you how much of a failure you are and what you're not doing, what you need to start doing. By the way, this is just for video purposes to show you guys like that you should be enraged and do something about this, right? Because passivity is not going to get the job done. I'm super chill every day, all day, having a great time playing Rome Total War on the computer with an espresso, hanging out with Lior. We just went on a cruise in the Bahamas. It was amazing. I'm not like this every day, all day. This is just for the video, responsible to this video.
If Joel said what he wanted to say on that cruise with the crowd of people we were around, he would have been thrown overboard. You know, Joel has an incredible self-control. But this is our only opportunity.
We were three other couples. I didn't talk about the Bible, you know, like etc. We gave them our cards at the end so they could find our channel. Exactly. Obviously there's social etiquette that has to take place, right? You obviously, up front, you use like social grace, etc. And then once you guys know each other a little bit and it makes sense, then you can start addressing the truth with them. But like everyone was standoffish and antisocial and kind of nervous and afraid. And myself and Lior, we engaged them all in conversation, and we were the most likable couple at the table. And we were just chit-chatting about normal stuff on the cruise. We got to swim and hug dolphins and sea turtles and all kinds of good stuff.
I actually have less self-control in social settings than Joel does. I'll say something real trigger, real dumb, and I'll be like, dang it, I don't get out enough.
And so it's so funny. Like Lior's such a sweetheart, as you guys know. Like Lior, not thinking about like how the left has made everything offensive today, right? You don't even know that you're like being offensive, but they've taught the left that our population be offended by everything. So without even realizing it, I didn't think about it till later. Like Lior said something, and some of the couples were actually like offended or whatever later. And I said, "Oh, Lior, you shouldn't have said that." So like
do that more often than.
So guys, there's a time and a place for everything, right? And so everyone is too sensitive today. That is from Satan and from women, and it's a bad thing. I'm not like this. hardly ever actually the majority, right? I'm not like this at work. I'm really quiet, you know, like and chill, etc. I never talk about any of this stuff. This is the time to get passionate and talk about this kind of stuff on a reaction video. So like, don't get your little undies in a jumble. Oh my gosh, Jill offended me. Oh, he's so mean. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and if you guys ever message me or etc. have any personal interactions, I'm super personable and friendly and chill. Like, but you need to get passionately angry about something so wicked and wrong being done publicly. You need to do more of this when it's appropriate, when it applies.
Yeah, Joel
So.
triggered the F out of me when we started talking. I felt he convicted me. I felt embarrassed. He was like, you have an idol in the back of your room. When we did a video chat, he's like, that's an idol over there. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. I totally do. I threw it away like immediately. And I realized every time I felt uncomfortable, I had a knee-jerk reaction. I was like, oy, like if I can't defend my stance and I just lash out, you know, Joel is passionate, but it's rooted in logic and reason. A lot of the
I was really sweet about it.
a lot of the
that was in the
times
early
that-
days.
yeah,
You
a
know,
lot
I
of
was
the
like, "Hey,
times-
sweetie, did you know that you had an idol? That's
Yeah,
an
yeah,
idol
yeah.
in your room?" Right?
Exactly.
She's like, "Oh, it is. I thought it was just decoration." It's like, "No, sweetie, it's an idol. It's a little statue of a man. You know, that's like voodoo and you know, satanic from
Whatever, but-
Africa." And she's like, "Oh, shoot. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. Darn it. I'll get rid of that. Sorry."
For sure. Or
So-
actually, what it was a statue of Mother Earth. Yeah. Okay. So that's what it was. But the point is like a lot of people lash out with no reason because they can't defend themselves. But what Joel's reaction is rooted in something. So you have to, you can tell the difference. Whenever
Yeah,
that happens.
I'm not getting angry because I like getting angry. No one, guys do not like to feel the bad emotions. We do not like to feel sad and angry. You're angry just like Yahuwah got angry, just like the prophets got angry, just like the Messiah got angry, just like some of the disciples got angry. When you see something being peddled as true when it's false. And when you see something being peddled off as righteous, that's wicked. And where does that lead? That leads to everyone's life being ruined right now, you like tangible stuff, and then going to the fire when they die. Guys, there's real consequences for this.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be doing this channel and like putting ourselves out there for all kinds of hate if it wasn't necessary and important. Please join us.
Yeah, a lot of people get triggered and offended when something, their foundation, the foundation of the doctrine of their life, like their life is built on a foundation, on a cornerstone. And when they find out that that cornerstone is wrong, everything else crumbles. And that's a lot of times when they lash out. So, use discernment. You know, people have a reaction to an emphatic expression like
Yeah.
Bill's doing
Two
right
things.
now.
Always try the soft approach first.
Yeah.
I always try the soft approach first. If the soft approach doesn't work, you go a medium, firmer approach. If the firm approach doesn't work, you go to a strong rebuke, right? So soft teaching, then you do like a soft correction. If they reject the teaching, they reject the correction, then you do then you can do like a medium correction. And then if that doesn't work, you know, then you do a strong rebuke. If that doesn't work, you boycott, right? First, make sure that you know the truth, right? You're standing on the truth and righteousness. But that's the process you take people through. Soft teaching, medium correction, strong rebuke. If that doesn't work, boycott. There's nothing else you can do, right? You try the soft approach work, it didn't work. You try the tough approach. And then if that doesn't work, then there's nothing else you can do, you know, then boycott. That's the process you need to take people through. But make sure you are dedicating your life to study and you're open to another study believer sharing with you information, you know, that you may not know already. So, right, it's a combination of both, right?
It's a journey.
I feel like we're upset by the video because of the push on women to be modest. Not a push on men, but a push on women.
Men are already modest, women aren't. Gaslighting.
Do this. Men don't need to look at you. You don't need to be causing them to look at you. And it's a pushback. It's almost as if the church has pushed so hard on one direction that it's caused the pendulum to swing in the opposite direction. And so when people are
No, we're at an all-time matriarchy. There's been no pendulum swing whatsoever. Absolutely not. We've gotten matriarchy since 1960. We are at an all-time high matriarchy now. There has been no pendulum swinging whatsoever.
The church has failed is because they've demonized men and the men have left the church. And so they are leaving women to their emotions saying, oh, trust your heart. You're going to hear those words right out of our own mouth. That is leftist churchanese. Okay. That's why women are saying, oh, like, law's done away with, all this great stuff. It's just about my heart. I can be, you know, I can wear a bikini and a thong, but my heart's in the right place. That's why.
Exactly.
You know, it's
She
not
literally says, trust your heart. God knows your heart. Go with your heart. She'll say that just here in a little bit. Jeremiah 19:8 says, what God knows your heart. You should be worried. The heart is desperately wicked. The heart is desperately wicked. The heart is desperately wicked. Don't trust your heart, right? Yahuwah and Jeremiah warn about that. And what do you know? That literally is the calling card of the left, women, and now the liberal church today.
She's saying the church was so disciplined that people just rebelled. No, the church
No,
wasn't disciplined enough.
Exactly. They were
The
too
church
liberal,
was
too feminist,
wicked.
too lax.
The church
Exactly.
was wicked and what's the word? Wrong. It was wrong. And that's why this is what happens when you don't follow the ways of Yahuwah. Things that the church was not following the ways of Yahuwah. The church was following the ways of the Antichrist, ironically.
In my 36 years, I haven't heard one single sermon criticizing women, not one, but almost every sermon criticizes men. In my 36 years of going to church, they actually, I was going to a more conservative church way back in the 90s, and that's the last time I heard about hell. I have not heard about hell in any churches since the 90s. So we've got here because churches are too liberal, too soft, too weak, too feminist.
They're saying, well, why are people wanting to dress this way nowadays and act this way? It's because they've gotten so tired of hearing the one thing that they've said, this is so harmful to me that I'm going to swing completely in the opposite direction and have nothing to do
Now the people teaching truth and righteousness are to blame, right? Not the people choosing to do wickedness.
with it. When really the truth is somewhere in the middle, but it pushes people away. And I think that
Nope, the truth is not in the middle. The truth is all the way on the right. It's all the way in the ancient book that we call the Bible, from Yahuwah, the creator, the designer of bodies, that knows what's best for us. These laws are all in our best interest. No, the truth is all the way on the right. It's not on the left. It's not even in the middle. It's all the way on the right. It's even more right than conservatives are liberal today. So they're like centrist. It's way more on the right than anyone realizes.
the video, even though it was lighthearted and fun to them, it had harmful messages in it that people have been hearing for so long, and they're tired of hearing. They don't want to hear it anymore.
Stop
The liberal message yet again.
Right.
Oh yeah, so the solution, that if you tell them the leftist satanic feminist message, then
counter psychology.
then they'll be patriarchal and truthful and righteous and moral. You teach them wickedness, and then they'll actually be more righteous. This girl's an idiot. She's an idiot. You know why? Because she's the authority in her home. Her husband is weak and submissive. He does not actually lead the home. He doesn't correct her. He doesn't teach her. He doesn't discipline her. He doesn't teach her. She's leading the home. And so her little girl baby heart is just floating all over everywhere in the ether. And Matthew Jansen's a failure as a father. I say again, Matthew Jansen is a failure as a husband and father. He's good on Torah, he's good on the lunar Sabbath, he's good on what Yahuwah created the earth. He is a failure with gender dynamics and as a husband and a father.
Something that I noticed when he took the video down on his social media post, he had a lot of Christians that were commenting on his initial post. And they were saying, don't cave in the woke culture. Don't worry about getting canceled and all that kind of jazz or whatever. And for me, I don't care what woke culture or any culture.
Oh, actually, yeah, he does. Yes, he does, because he literally is preaching the same feminist message that the world's preaching, right? He's teaching strong women, right? Feminism. He's not teaching patriarchy. He's not teaching submission and obedience. He's not even teaching women to get married, apparently. Yeah, he does care about woke culture. Matthew Jansen is woke,
Believe. I'm just trying to go by the scripture. So when I saw
If you were, you'd be patriarchal, Matthew.
video, it's not like I'm worried that we're not fitting in with the world. That's not what I try to do.
Yeah, he is.
We're not fitting in with the world. I got upset because I felt it was anti-scriptural.
Two-thirds of his audience are women. He doesn't want to offend them.
The teachings found in Holy Scripture. I didn't.
This is what the Christians say too.
Anything about, well, you don't need to post this video because of woke culture or whatever. You kind of see what I'm saying for that?
I do. Anything that you say that could be woke culture. A lot of the Christianity today, there's like two camps. There's the super woke Christians, and then there's the super whatever conservative Christians, and you can't be anywhere in the middle because this side wants to say,
you know what you want to be? You want to be lukewarm. You know what it says? You know what it says in Revelation to the lukewarm believers, right? Only 2 out of the 7 types of believers, right? Only the Philadelphia believers and the ones from, I always get these confused. It's either Sardis or Smyrna. are going to be saved. The Messiah says that the other 5 believers, right, they're so wicked. They believe in so many wrong things and they're doing so many wrong things. And one of those is tolerating Jezebel. And one of them is being too lukewarm, that Yahuwah will spew them out of their mouth and treat them like a non-believer and throw them into the fire. He rebukes those who he loves and chastens those who he loves. So accept this rebuke and change before it's too late. She's literally teaching a lukewarm Laodicean doctrine right here. They're teaching a Jezebel doctrine from the people from Thyatira. Revelation chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 2 and chapter 3.
Oh, you're so legalistic, and this side wants to say, oh, you're so leftist, you're too woke, you're too sensitive. And I feel like you can be somewhere in the middle. And Yeshua got on to some of the strictest people constantly for how they were putting more onto the law than what the law was. They were taking the law and adding, well, here it is, but also let's take it 3 steps further and you have to do this. And that's what purity culture has done. It has taken a good thing and it's sugar-coated it in a bad way to be 3 steps further than what it's supposed to be.
It's like jambalaya. I don't even know what she's saying
Nope,
right now, to be
exactly.
completely honest. This
Word
is a
salad.
mishmash of a bunch of.
That is not why the Messiah was mad at him, actually. Exactly. He literally says, and I think it's Matthew, gosh, this could be wrong. Matthew chapter 19, verse 20. I got it saved on my phone. I share it all the time. It says, whatever the Sanhedrin, the Pharisees tell you to do that and observe. Whatever they teach you, do that and observe it, because they're teaching you what Yahuwah taught Moses to the Hebrews, the believers. He said, but just don't do what they do, because they don't even do what they preach. They're corrupt. They were corrupt with the Hasmonean leadership who was in bed with the Romans. They were corrupt, actually. You know, they weren't actually keeping the same Torah they were teaching. He criticized them for not keeping the law, for not being righteous, for not being actually strict enough on their own righteousness, not the opposite. So what she said is just a straight up lie. This is girl propaganda, you know, like it always is.
Hashtag nope.
Nope.
It was especially weird to me. It's coming from modest is hottest, sincerely your dad. I feel like there is a overwhelming amount of fathers who, as soon as your baby's born, they're buying t-shirts for their little girls or little boys saying heartbreaker or I'm not allowed to date ever. Or the little boy saying ladies man, and putting sexual content. People talk about not sexualizing children, but then that is putting a sexual connotation onto your children already at such a young age, and fathers are loading their shotguns to sit on the porch, and it's sexualizing their young daughters, saying you can't wear this.
Okay, so you wouldn't have to have a shotgun if you had an arranged marriage. That's what we teach, right? We teach that dating, watch dating for more than that. We don't agree with the shotguns, but also I don't agree with the cute but kind of cringe and like kind of distasteful, kind of weird like little t-shirts, whatever it is little. But I think we're kind of making a big deal out of nothing there. Yeah, I agree. Like kind of parents like love their kids so much that they're benevolent to a fault and they start like worshiping them. So
because I don't want boys to look at you like a sexual object. But in the back of their mind, that's viewing them as a sexual object. And so
This is a psychopathy. Like
Yep,
people are
sociopathy.
sexual beings.
God created all of us not to be robots, not to be freaking trees, not to be a piece of metal, but he created us to be sexual creatures. Apparently, even the angels are sexual compared to Genesis chapter 6, Enoch, Jasher, Jubilees, Josephus, Peter. You know, apparently even the angels are sexual, but yeah, all humans are sexual. You go through puberty at 11, you are therefore a sexual being, and from then on out, you may not be sexual from even before then, but even before then, even if you go through puberty, I remember being in preschool, and I had a lot of like younger, prettier teachers that were just out of college. They were 22, and I remember thinking, wow, I like this woman. I didn't know how to phrase it. I didn't know all the sexual stuff, but I was 5 years old and like, oh, she looks really appealing, and I want to get her approval, and I want to get a hug, and I want to give her a compliment, and her like me. And I just remember that being a really nice feeling. Boys and girls have that feeling even before puberty, right? And that's when they bond with the opposite gender parent, right? The father is the first husband for the daughter. They always want to say they want to marry their dad, right? Because they were designed to be with the husband. And they're like, oh, I can't marry my dad. Oh, when can I get married, right? And so that's why it's important to have it as soon as possible, not never, not later. We talk about that dating. And same thing for a boy. A boy like he loves his mom, like, oh, this is so wonderful. She loves me. It's all nurturing, opposite gender. This is amazing. And so like that kind of operates as his first wife, except in that context, he's obeying his mom. But as soon as he's an adult in his teenage years, He should no longer obey his mom, right? Be polite to her, no longer obey his mom, and actually his wife should be obeying him. And most Western men never grow out of that. They never realize that you're not supposed to obey your wife like you obeyed your mom as a child. She's supposed to be obeying you, and then it flips like that. For the woman, it's supposed to stay the same. You obey your dad and you obey your husband, right? They're doing it the opposite. Oh, I had to obey my dad, even though they don't do it as well as they should, and then they don't obey their husband. Oh, cool. Now it's matriarchy. What we have today is all wives are acting like mothers and all husbands are acting like sons. But what should happen, like I say in all the videos, is the husband should act like the father, the wife should act like the eldest daughter, right? She has agency, she absolutely can learn, she's capable of assisting around the house, etc. She is capable of certain things, but not as much as a man,
What she's doing is double speak. She's saying, oh, by acknowledging that we are sexual beings and we have that in us, and protecting your daughter from that, you are actually sexualizing her. Like, this is the sociopathy, the psychopathy that women do. Like, if you want to protect your daughter from predators, then you're actually sexualizing her. This is how women pervert stuff. This is
they
not.
can twist absolutely anything.
Yeah.
Sorry, we gotta hurry.
Go ahead.
Gotta go.
You should be teaching their daughters
Try not to come to the end.
to practice modesty in a way of self-love and love to Yahweh, and teaching their sons
Self-love.
to not view women as that.
Love
object.
myself.
That's not a term in the Bible.
You're not viewing
Which
her
comment
as
as we go?
dresses,
That's
you're
what we should
viewing her as an individual in Yahweh, and an individual in Christ.
You love someone else. You
and
can't
stuff
love
like that.
yourself. That's weird.
Instead of just what they're wearing.
Morgan, I've learned so much from you.
Here we go. Beta simping. The father, the man, learns from his daughter, not her learning from him. Here we go.
My oldest daughter, you are my daughter, and whom I will please. Yeah, and we have the same nose.
Show.
But, and I mean that, I'm not just saying that, I mean that. I have learned, just like I think that you would say you've learned from me as your dad, or as your pastor.
He's so humble, he can't even confidently state that his daughter has learned from him over her whole life. This is an abomination.
One of your pastors. We have 3 here at the congregation. So one of you.
Oh yeah, your husband's not your pastor. No, I'm your dad's not your pastor. Other men are your pastor. You know what? You're your own pastor, little girl.
I've learned a lot from you, and I appreciate.
Notice how she doesn't say that in return.
You'll see at the end of this video, she does not say that she's learned everything that she knows from her dad, Matthew, or her husband.
Teaching me, and
Poor husband. It had to be done. Sorry, you should have been there. And I know you've been raised to be a feminist your whole life, but whoever Morgan's husband is, we're not going to say his name, Mr. Still. We don't even know what it is. We understand why you're in the situation, how tough it is. But if you care about being a man, being pleasing to Yahuwah, and also you're going to be held accountable, unfortunately, this is how it works, for Morgan, for your wife, and for your kids. You have kids now. You have to take a stronger, more patriarchal role in your relationship, or that will be counted as a sin, and Yahuwah will hold you accountable to death for it. So this is not just nothing. This is something. So please do that, Mr. Still.
being patient with me, trying to understand. I mean, we're not a huge amount apart. I had you when I was 17 years old. I mean,
okay, guys, just check this out. This proves our point in dating. This proves our point in dating 100%. Matthew Jansen, the most, the most sweet, moral, virgin Amish guy. He had Morgan. They got pregnant with Morgan when he and his wife were 16. So they were dating at 15, right? Oh my gosh, that's the same time you're supposed to get married throughout all of history. They started dating at 15. They had sex. They had her at 16. They hurried up. And got married while they were 16 to cover up the scandal, the fornication, right? This is just normal. This has always happened in history. That's why if you were married off in your teens, it wouldn't be an issue. People are still doing it without the marriage regardless. They're going to have sex in their teens, middle school and high school. College of the latest. Exactly. So they hurried up, got married when they were 16, and then they had Morgan at 17. Nobody voluntarily, it was an accident. They just wouldn't have an orgasm. No one voluntarily chooses to be a father in our day and age in the last 64 years at 17. No one voluntarily of their own planning and volition decides to get married at 16. The very spanking earliest would be 18 and 19, in our lifetime. So just so you know, this proves our point in dating.
and your mom was 17, so we're not a huge amount apart, but yeah. So I've learned a lot. I mean, you mentioned the whole thing about the social media at a young age, and your mom and I talked, and we've said, if we had to do over again, we would not have given our children social media at such a young age just because they wanted it, and we're actually waiting longer with your youngest brother, you know, to do that, because we're trying to correct what we felt was an error. But even though we're only 17 years apart, we're definitely a generation apart, and there's things that are going on with people your age now that I don't fully comprehend.
You're darn right. Exactly. That's why he shouldn't be teaching on gender dynamics and dating to marriage. He doesn't understand what's taken place, like, like in recent times.
The blue pill
You know,
TradCon, and
he has-
the reality on the ground is totally different.
He has no clue exactly what dating's been. He didn't date at all. That probably was his first girlfriend. He probably was a virgin with his wife. He's not speaking from experience at all.
And not just the way y'all talk or the words you say, but I just don't fully comprehend. And I have to understand not to reject everything and say, well, I can't learn anything from my daughter because she's my daughter and she's younger than me. I have to humble myself and say, what can I learn? What do I not?
So the father has to learn from his daughter, not the daughter from his father. This is so backwards. This is an inversion. This is transgenderism. This is matriarchy. This is actually child supremacy and freaking father subjugation. What in the French toast?
Not understand. I've told people before, and it kind of shocked people. I don't want my children to grow up and just believe everything I believe. If it's right, what I believe, then obviously I want you to believe it, but not because I believe it, because it's right. But if you grow up and, you know,
this is a moot point. Obviously, he wouldn't believe anything that he didn't actually think was right. So obviously, he would want her to believe exactly what he believes because he thinks that it's right. This is not a point at all. It's a moot point. This is so redundant. It's strange.
let's say I'm gone or I pass away or whatever, and you say, you know, I love my dad, he was a good man, but I think he probably had this one wrong or that one
Feminism.
wrong, and we need
Exactly.
Feminism.
Yeah, the woman knows better. Exactly.
to reform. All glory to y'all.
You know, even if she's 1 year old, she knows better because she's a girl.
No
Because
reverence
we
to
talk-
her husband. Her husband isn't even mentioned in this
Yep,
entire
yep.
conversation.
His name, even that she has a husband, is not even mentioned. He's not there because who cares, right? He's a non-entity. He's a little slave. He's
Passing
a
things through
child.
your
Yeah.
husband, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Yeah, she's not an authority. She's not an authority to her husband at all. She's completely inverted the authority system that God created, which is Satanism. That's what Satan did in the garden. She's following in Satan's footsteps.
Follow truth, not dads or not moms or individuals, right? So, but I've learned a lot from you.
There again.
As we close, what word, if you had to give a word to young girls your age, or let's say, you know, late teens, early 20s, thinking about getting married, engaged, early marriage.
So much
what do you say
disclaiming.
to them?
Young girls who are getting ready for marriage,
Mhm.
focus more,
Get ready for it.
read your Bible, don't just go to it's so easy in the world now to read what other people are saying and choose a camp, but actually read your Bible and see what the Bible is saying, what Yahweh is saying, and not.
Apparently that didn't work for her, right? Like she saw patriarchy all over the Bible. It doesn't matter. Like it wasn't being enforced by her dad or by her husband or by culture, so she didn't do it.
Just feeling like you have to side with this camp or that camp on one side or the other, and focus on your heart.
There it
Everything
is.
on the outside does not matter.
There it is. Focus on your heart.
Your outside
Don't
reflects
focus on
your
obeying
heart.
God or your husband. Focus on your heart.
Your outside reflects your heart.
And this is a sociopathic way to say, I'm in charge, the woman, I'm in charge, matriarchy. I'm following my heart.
Beauty goes away. Focus on your heart and focus on finding
Focus on your
somebody
heart.
that sees
Satan's
through
message.
your heart and not just.
There we go.
3 times.
Obviously, people.
Matthew Jansen said he learned from his daughter 3 times. I've learned so much from you, little girl, 3 times. Her, I just trust my heart 3 times, not my husband.
That's not shameful. You don't have to feel shameful about being attracted to somebody. You don't have to feel shameful about your body.
Trust me, the girls feel no shame today. They are obese and they are naked online and in public all the time. They feel no
This is not
shame.
the message we need to hear.
This is the exact opposite message. We need to be shaming women because they shouldn't be naked online and in person. They shouldn't be freaking obese. They shouldn't be rebellious and evil towards their husband and abusing their husband and abusing men at large.
You don't have to feel shameful about anything, but that doesn't mean that you can't also save yourself for that. And focus on somebody that's going to look through you and love you for your heart and love you for your heart for Yahweh, and not just for what you look like, not for what you say. Look, find somebody who is.
You can be
going to
obese, it's
serve
totally
Yahweh
fine.
with you and him foremost, so that he can put you first.
I would love that same energy towards the guys. Don't love him for his money. He can be poor and homeless, but love him anyway. Don't love him for his height. He can be super short, but love him anyway. Don't love him for him being attractive. He can be really ugly and obese. He doesn't have to be fit, but love him anyway. Nope. Girls never hear that message.
All of those other.
They wouldn't buy it if they
You're
did.
looking for somebody and they just want to talk about your appearance, or they just want to talk, or if they're talking negatively about other people's appearances, you want to find somebody who doesn't look.
Body positivity, exactly. Obesity. We're Adam and Eve obese in the garden, right? To be obese is to be in rebellion and disobedient and wicked to God's standard, right? Like, if you're obese, you're going to die early. God wants you to be healthy. He doesn't want you to have organ problem as you're going through life and be hospital like ridden, etc. He wants you to live a healthy, happy life. And it's a good thing to be attractive. It's a good thing to be attractive to your spouse. You shouldn't prioritize it above all else, like a lot of women are doing online, right? All the Kardashians and Instagram. But it absolutely should be a factor of life, like virtue signaling,
Just out the outside, at the outside. You want to find somebody who looks deeper than that. And if you don't find anybody, that's okay too. If you're
you don't find anybody, you don't find them. Like, what are you talking about? You
seek them.
Like, women don't find anybody. They just wait there at home and let the messages roll in and guys come in. Like, women just wait there and ask for guys to like approach them online dating, on Facebook, in person, at a coffee shop, in the library, at school. Like, so women don't find anybody, right? Like, the women just wait there, all obese and bitchy, and then the guys come up to them like, nope, not good enough. Nope, not good enough. Nope. No, the guys are trying to find someone. Exactly. Even when the guy does find a woman who's not totally evil, he then has to teach her from scratch how to be good. Watch our other videos on Patreon about that, specifically Game that we just came out with.
your purpose is not to get married, that is just as whole and fulfilling as marriage is. There's nothing.
No, it's not. A woman's purpose is to get married to her husband. This is a lie. This is false information, people. This is why we're roasting it so hard to bring it to your attention. We thought we wouldn't do this, actually, reaction videos. We didn't want to be all petty and get all girly and everything. It's so necessary because most of you would watch this and you're manipulated by Matthew Jansen being a woman, by the way, by her being a woman and the manipulative music. Like, oh, they're biblical people. They got a Bible there. It sounds good. This is the totally leftist satanic message.
This is advice. You don't have to be married. Will lead a woman to her demise.
Yeah, exactly. The women aren't married today. They're in sex work. They're abusing substances. They look like a freak with all the freaking, piercings in their nose and all over their face and the makeup and the freaking green hair and obese. And they're going out for marches because they don't have a husband, right? When women say they hate men, they're overcompensating. They want a man so badly, a father, and that's their mother's fault. They didn't have a father. And then a husband, because we don't have arranged marriages. It's their fault for hypergamy and not accepting all the nice guys that asked them. And they feel so bad that they don't have a husband because they want that and need that so badly. Then they try to overcompensate, like, oh, I never even wanted a dad in the first place. I never even wanted a husband in the first place. Yeah, I just hate men. It's because they can't even get one. And the reason why they don't have one is because they're evil. All you have to do to get a husband is be good and say yes to the nice guy, and every single woman could be married. Like, guys like date down and have like no standards. It's crazy. Like, so if you're a woman and you can't get married, you know how big of a piece of shit that makes you? You must be like evil, like beyond Satan, to not get it. It's so crazy.
Nothing wrong with being single. That doesn't mean that you're less than. That doesn't mean that Yahweh doesn't love you. That doesn't mean that you don't have your place in the church. You're just
what a misnomer. 99%. Yahuwah's going to throw 99% of people into the fire. So if you guys want to say that he loves everyone while doing that, be my guest. But that's totally a part of his love combo. So he only loves those who love him. And if you love him, you conform, you change based on the truth, and then you actually practice righteousness. You do what he tells you to do. If you don't do what he tells you to do, you don't love him. You don't practice patriarchy, you don't love Yahuwah. If you don't do Torah, you don't love Yahuwah.
And
he says that over and over and over again. He's like, obey my commandments, keep my statutes, do what I tell you to do, do what I tell you to do. I know better, I created you, have your best interests at heart. All of humans like, no, Satan.
And we know these guys are big on Paul, and Paul is talking about the order in the church, wives obey their husband as unto the Lord, and all those verses, you guys know them, we talk about them. But like, she's saying you don't have your place in the church, so you can be rebellious against Yahuwah and still be in his body, in his assembly. That doesn't make sense either.
a different path.
Thank you, Morgan. I love you, sweetheart.
Good girl.
No, she's a bad girl. No, she's absolutely not. She's a totally matriarchal bad girl.
All right, guys.
So-
Can you stop sharing.
Okay. We're gonna like do it like, so how do you full screen?
Okay, just click stop share. Stop share.
Yeah.
And, ooh,
Right here?
that's good. Just leave it.
Yeah. Okay, guys. All right. Well, thanks for bearing with us. This was well, I actually have messed around with this TV. I've just been busy doing other things, and like Leor's actually been messing around with our new technology in the studio. So anyway, our first reaction video. Hope you guys liked it. Thanks for, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching to the end. We thought we'd make it way shorter than this, so sorry that you
As
haven't
per
with us. Oh my
usual.
gosh.
Whatever.
you got not only me talking, but also Leor, but then also those two talking the whole video, and it was like there's so many good things to respond to, so we thought we'd just show the whole thing and everything anyway. So go ahead, Sweet, go ahead and do any last comments that you have.
No, nothing.
Love the
Thanks
video.
for watching. If you did, you're a trooper, and I'm sure that
Share
you
this.
were
Share this.
cringing,
Yeah, exactly. Share this with Matthew Jansen. Share this with Morgan Still. Share this with her husband. Share this with other Torah people. Share this with Christian people,
Yeah.
other women, and other men.
Also, if somebody has to put music in the background, guys, red flag. You shouldn't have to emotionally manipulate people to like feeling a certain way while you're talking. The content of your word should be enough. So yeah, red flag, cringe, dies from cringe. That's my favorite meme.
Dies from cringe. Yeah, dies from cringe, you know?
And
All right.
thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff.
Exactly what she said. All right. I'm Joel.
And I'm Leor.
Western culture do good. God's eyes. We'll see you on the next one.